Just thinking. No, I love it.
We should be good now.
See where Arizona State's at. Well,
Megan, is it ready?
Yes.
Oh, wait, that's weird. It said maybe it was stopping, but I could not hear it again. Megan, can you say something again?
Hello?
Oh, still can't hear you. One second.
Wait, can you guys hear me okay?
Eva, can you say something?
Hello, can you hear me?
basically, so
Yeah.
actually,
Oh, she's about to be in it.
try again. Oh, actually, we can't hear you.
About now.
Eva, can you try something now?
Oh,
No.
Damn, still don't work. Thank you.
somebody unmute and say something on Zoom.
About now, does this work? Hello?
Sorry, baby, still getting you. Megan, can you say something?
Hello? Hello?
Keep saying something, please.
Hello?
Somebody keep testing please on the Zoom. The audio.
Hello, 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 hello. Oh, here, let me, sorry. Hello, hello, testing. Hello, testing, testing. Can you guys hear me? Hello, test, test, 1, 2, 3.
Wait, go again, Eva, sorry.
I can hear. Hello?
Again, the live is running, right?
Yes, yes, it is.
Thank you. Call this meeting to order at 7:13 PM. Thank you all for attending. You appreciate it, those on Zoom and in person. So quick thing before we get started, we need to approve the agenda for tonight. So are there any amendments to the agenda? Raise your hands. All right, Sujana, we need you to write.
Yes. Yes. It's okay. Yeah. Can I please strike ASRF and TGMF allocations?
Thank you. Sarah?
Can I?
Oh, they got it.
Can I please strike, Asian study BOD?
Yep, Eva.
Please strike bag and grows allocations, please.
Can I please strike TGIF allocations and can you please add restricted, vote on restricted TGIF funds for spring allocation?
Oh, wait, remember Megan's. And oh. Like, oh, wait.
You gotta vote now.
Oh. Got to go to add it to the motion.
Okay, I motion to add a vote on restricted TGIF funds for spring allocation to tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, the line motion is making seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. The 14-0-0 vote, that's approved. Thank you. All right, next we have Janice.
Can we add an executive session? I don't know what else to say. For a personal matter. To tonight's agenda.
Also requires an additional vote because it's action item.
Okay, I motion to add a personal matter executive session to tonight's meeting as an action item.
Thank you. All right, Janice motion is no 9 seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With the 13-0-0 vote, that is approved. Thank you. All right, and we have Lucy.
Can we please strike capital contingency?
Thank you. Last but not least, let's add a discussion item for the surplus proposals after in new business. Thank you. Okay. So that is all. Any other amendments before we approve the agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I moved to approve the USAC, right?
Yeah.
I move to approve the USAC agenda for March 5th.
All right, Sujana, motion with the last seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13-0-0 vote, that's approved. Thank you. All right, moving to our next thing. Sydney noted that we won't be approving minutes for today. We will be approving them for next time, so we'll go ahead and push through. So no minutes to approve for today. Now we're moving into public comment. So remember, public comment is a 30-minute period, 2 minutes per speaker. Also remember our community guidelines when speaking in public comment. Challenge ID is not individual, gender inclusive and respectful language. Freedom of speech is not freedom from accountability. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes and the opportunity to speak once. No dehumanizing language. And with that reminder that public comment is for currently enrolled undergraduate students at UCLA, cannot be from another university. So we will begin to open public comment at 7:18 p.m. For those that are in person or on Zoom, please go ahead and raise your hand. And make sure to also introduce yourself for our note taker.
Do you need me to spell my name? Okay, my name is He. I'm gonna be giving the CalPERC update this week since Claire's out of town. I just want to say that CalPERC does run a new voter project as one of our campaigns. We've been pushing the vote really hard since it is election day today. So the past week we've been doing tabling and flyering to get students' info on how they can vote. Did like a Mean Girls table, did rock painting, and also we were out there for like 5 hours today. And we got to talk to a lot of students and help them get to a polling center, which was super awesome. Hopefully all of you guys have voted, but if not, Bruin reception room is open till 8 p.m. So if you want to book it there, that's great. But aside from voting, I also want to touch on our 100% clean energy campaign. So we are running to try and get UCLA to go 100% clean energy by 2035, being that about 85% of our power right now comes from natural gas. And every UC is also running a decarbonization study. And I wanted to let you guys know that there's going to be a town hall on Monday where they're going to talk about findings from the study so far and also take public comment on what the community thinks is important when we're decarbonizing the campus. So we'll send an RSVP out for that pretty soon. And last quarter, USAC passed a resolution to support clean energy at UCLA. Part of that resolution stated that USAC could work with CalPERC in order to do student outreach. So we're also going to reach out to you guys about getting the word out for town hall and making sure that a lot of students are able to come and learn about clean energy at UCLA and also give public comment to that. So yeah, that's my update. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Now we'll switch to online and then we'll go back to in person. Helen?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, beautiful. Hi, my name is Helen. I am a fourth year studying sociology. I am the chair for AfroGrad. It is a compartment under the ASU Student Association. And I'm also a exec council member for the East African Student Association. And I'm here today in the ASU Endowment Fund to be allocated for an ASU annual program such as AfroGrad. AfroGrad is an annual program catered to the Black Bruin graduating students, and it is the only event of kind to celebrate at UCLA, and especially a lot of the students who are graduating have been members of class of 2020. We want to ensure that not only is their unprecedented time and their college experience is celebrated and accounted for, but that their disproportionate disadvantage of being a Black student at a predominantly white institution is also glorified in a way that is memorable for all, and without proper, and we wouldn't see any progressive movement. I understand that the submission for a surplus request was submitted at 3:15 when the deadline was 3 p.m. But that leads me to question the use of the bureaucracy. Is this institution supposed to be?
Time, I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to say that this was the request that we wanted to make.
Moving to our next public comment. Anybody in person? Okay. Anybody on Zoom? Everyone's going twice. In person? All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler. I'm currently serving as the chairperson of the UCLA African Student Union. I sent you all an email earlier today, so I hope that you read through it as our student body representatives. But I am here on behalf of the African Student Union to ask that all of y'all address the concerns that I raised in my letter to USAC, which included the vetoing of the Gen Rep 3 allocation from 2022. That was $45,000 for Black students at UCLA, as well as the TSR allocation that is around $35,000 for multiple transfer student organizations, including the African Student Union and the Transfer Center, as well as for all of you to consider to put the EDP request for academic reparations onto the surplus presentations. As Helen astutely mentioned, the deadline was 3 p.m. Our wonderful CAC here let ASU know that there was a surplus open and that we all voted to change the guidelines this year because we felt like too many boards had access to our own student fees. So to add that back onto the agenda, as well as to talk about the process by which y'all are going by, because a scoring sheet by ASUCLA, people who aren't even current students, people who aren't even the most marginalized populations is kind of wild, and I'm embarrassed to say that I sat on this council and that is something that y'all all felt comfortable endorsing. So if you truly care for your Black student population, if you truly want to pass the RDN campaign like all of y'all said y'all would, I expect to have this addressed in this meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Moving to public comment on Zoom, we have David.
Hi, everyone. My name is David. I strongly urge the council to reject Naomi's shameful vetoing of $55,000 that was allocated last year for ASU, AEP, SHAPE, and ASP for a council that unanimously adopted a resolution endorsing the Racial Justice Now campaign to establish an endowment fund as reparations for Black students. It is absolutely hypocritical and shameful to not even consider a proposal that was submitted by ASU simply because it was 15 minutes late. You are not the military. You are not Chancellor Block. You are a student government. And if you can't be flexible to serve students in the way that we deserve, then you don't deserve your position.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Yeah.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Javier, and I'm coming to y'all as the UCLA Racial Justice Now campus coordinator. I just kind of want to echo the last few public comments asking for council to please reconsider the various Black student surplus requests for academic reparations and whatnot, especially just because of the fact that, you know, it's been echoed pretty often for the past year due to RJN and Tyler's work as ASU chairperson. That there are only so many entities on UCLA's campus that actually advocate for Black student recruitment, retention, and access here at UCLA. So to deny that funding, you know, really just doesn't do those works any justice, doesn't do your students any justice, especially considering the fact that like some of the most marginalized communities here at UCLA are primarily composed of Black students here. I just think it's, you know, so incredibly important to really just continue considering the growing needs of the student body, and to reject this, you know, surplus request proposal just because it was 15 minutes late is, I'm choosing my words very wisely, but you know, it's just a shameful thing to do, because why are we dictating the the lifetime and retention of Black students here just because of a 15-minute, late period. I really don't understand the logic behind that. If y'all would be able to please explain that to me, I would really appreciate it. But with the amount of bargaining power that UCLA has within its own UC system, it's so important that y'all, take that step that you took when you unanimously voted on the RJN resolution and, pass this funding so that you can actually put your money where the mouth is. And President Ray can't, say otherwise.
Sorry. Thank you. No apologies necessary. Let's go to on Zoom, Mitali. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Please correct me.
Hi, I was wondering if we could because I'm not from UCLA, are we able to speak?
No, unfortunately, public comments only for currently enrolled UCLA undergraduates. I apologize.
Perfect, thank you.
William?
Yeah, hi. My name is William. I'm an undergrad. I'm a fourth year and a transfer. I just wanted to support the funding request that was like 15 minutes late. I also heard about the funding request like 2 or 3 days before, and it's just like not a lot of time to like prepare for that, especially like accessing like $1 million. I think it's like kind of unfair that you have like 2 or 3 days. This wasn't like really communicated to like a lot of other offices, so just want to support that cause. I don't think 15 minutes is crazy, and I think an exception could definitely be made here. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm closing public comment at 7:29 p.m. Thank you. Moving forward, we have funding going into contingency programming. Lucy.
Yeah, sorry, I'll paste this in the chat before I say it. Oh, sorry. Okay. This week, we had a total contingency programming request of $21,109, and we recommend an allocation of $7,626.33 for 23 non-USAC entity related events. And then, sorry, I'll also paste this in the chat right now. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions, but that is this week's allocation.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, with that, can we have a motion?
I move to approve the contingency programming allocation of $7,626.33 for 23 non-USAC entity related events.
Second. All right, can Megan motion? 80 seconds, all in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. Move it 12 to 0 vote, that is approved. Thank you. Moving forward, we have SFS allocations. Thank you.
Okay, so for SFS allocation. Hello. For SFS allocations, we had a total requested amount of 6,829 and a total allocation of 3,975 with 2 USAC applicants and 3 non-USAC applicants.
Thank you. Any opposition? With that, that is approved. Thank you. All right, moving forward, we have SWC programming fund allocations. Janice.
Hello, I'm actually joining the Zoom right now, so I can drop the numbers, but this week the SWC programming fund received no requests from USAC entities and then $972.70 from 2 non-USAC entities. And then we recommend an allocation of $250 to the 2 non-USAC entities.
If you want, you can type it in.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Oh, sorry. Was there any opposition there? That is approved. All right. Moving forward, we have ARC allocations. Alicia. Can you pass to Alicia? Right? Thank you.
This week, we allocated, well, we were trying to allocate $4,000 to non-USAC entities.
Okay, any opposition? That is approved, thank you. Moving forward, we have special presentations, starting with elections board updates. Go ahead. One way.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm here as the elections board chair, just with a few updates. For elections board on what we're doing and then how council can help us. So firstly, we're partnering with the Brewer Media Group again to kind of try and promote elections and get candidates to run. So I believe that we sent a message to you all, and thank you to everyone who responded. To everyone who responded, they should have reached out to you already. They're basically just trying to do a video about like your office while you're running for USAC and any advice you have for candidates. So if you're interested in doing that, which I highly recommend, please respond to Naomi or email me and we'll get you all the information to schedule kind of a shooting for it. It should take like 15 minutes. There's like a few questions that they'll put a video together about. So yeah, definitely. But
Yeah, could you say the name of the group one more time? I'm not sure.
it's the Brood Media Group.
By email?
Yeah, by email, but if you didn't respond to Naomi, respond to her or like email the elections board and I'll give them your contact just so that they know. So yeah. Okay, and then the second thing that I have for you all is please promote the candidate packet launch. I still don't have access to the Instagram like properly. So I can't like share on my story, on the elections board story. So if you all have like your individual office Instagrams, please repost that post and get more people to run. We're getting a really constant flow of applicants or candidate packet requests right now. So definitely keep promoting, and yeah, get people to run if possible. And then also another thing, I think we will talk more about it, but there's a surplus proposal that we're putting through, just for candidate supplies and reimbursements. So yeah, I think it's just super important to increase voter turnout, especially because the board is actually really limited in like outreach and marketing this year because we don't have staff to kind of get ready, like get all these marketing materials ready and reach out to student groups. So we're kind of relying on candidates, especially during the election season to do that. And we really would like to give resources to students. So yes, that's the last thing. And then one more thing. We're also getting directors, and hopefully my appointments will be here for directors for elections board next week. Okay, so thank you everyone.
Thank you. Also, I think everyone should participate in that brand media project. I don't quite see a reason not to. Each of your office do certain work that is specific to your office, and we should just take the time to do it. So yeah.
So if we haven't been contacted,
If you didn't respond to my text message, you didn't get an email. Okay. Moving forward, we have the special presentation from CSULB and FDSU representatives on equitable access. Are there people we promoting?
Yes.
okay, right, this is me. I apologize. I was looking for the text. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I just turned it on. Yes, okay, so today for our special presentation, we have some guests from CSULB and SDSU. They should be on the Zoom right now. It was Mitali, and Tarek. And I think they have their presentation ready to go on their end. And so this is just going to be about their experience with equitable access on their campuses. I know that we've discussed extensively equitable access and inclusive access at previous council meetings. So hopefully this gives you the opportunity to get, this personal experience and ask any questions you may have so you can be as informed as we did today. And thank you so much, of course, to Tarek and Mitali for making the time to come and speak.
Thank you. And I'll leave the stage to you. Go ahead. Who do you want to go first, Mitali or?
I can go first.
Okay, perfect.
And I'm not supposed to expose this, but Matali just texted me, you go first. So I have to go first now. Is there anything in specific that you all want to know, or should I give you my general experience and take you through my decision-making process?
I think that the beginning with your general experience would be perfect, and then we will, I think, definitely ask questions at the end.
Okay. So I was approached actually as one of the first duties I had as AS president by the vice president of student affairs and campus diversity, asking if I wanted to move forward with an innovative project that he had been planning for a long time. And the only hurdle was that there was a lack of space. And now there was a space that they found was adequate and that they should go ahead and move forward with. And it turned out that the situation was a little bit more complicated than that, because there was another campus partner that wanted the same space for research purposes. And so I had to go meet with that person, and I had to go meet with the student affairs campus diversity president, and they were almost contending for my decision on which person I'm going to give that space to. And I just waited it out, and I kept inquiring with my team. And eventually there was another space that actually opened up for research. And there was a space that worked in our library quiet center for the gaming. And I had to go to the library dean and inquire on whether or not there was enough quiet space in the library that existed to be able to house the students that wanted quiet space if we were to take away the quiet space that existed on the certain floor to put in the gaming there. And I made sure that basically all stakeholder groups and everyone that would have been affected by this decision was first and foremost not going to be affected detrimentally. And after I ensured that that was the case, and that was the case, I looked at the gaming center as an amazing opportunity, because we have a large population of students that love gaming and a large population across America of people and kids that love gaming. And now it's become monetizable. So you have gaming tournaments, you have design majors that like the idea of pursuing a career in video game design. And so once I was exposed to all of the professional routes that students could take through an experience with gaming, it made complete sense, because it not only is it just a place to relieve stress, but it actually is, e-gaming is becoming a huge industry. It's a huge market, and there's a lot of money to be made. And the revenue that we stream from gaming will actually be put back into something important for the campus. And so this is a multi-year initiative, and I had the foresight to see that the gaming center, first of all, helps a lot of students and gives them exposure to an industry they might want to go into, and then provides revenue for the university to go and take on future projects. And that obviously made a lot of sense, because there was no downside, because no one was going to get hurt by the advent of a gaming center. And so the decision made a lot of sense to me. And it's ever since, every time I walk past it is the most packed part of the library. There's no other part of the library that students would rather be at than in a gaming center, like literally driving a steering wheel on a life-size car game. I don't know if that's a good gaming terminology. I need to start gaming more.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I would love to actually learn a little bit more about how implementing the equitable access program at your campus kind of lent itself to like helping with the gaming, because I think that's kind of where your connection to the equitable access program like stems from, right? So I would just, yeah, I guess love to learn more about that connection between the equitable access program's implementation and the eventual positive returns for the gaming center.
Yeah. So your question pertains to how equitable access helped fund the gaming center, or what's the question with equitable access? Because
Yeah, that's exactly my question. I think in my experience with equitable access at the UCLA campus, I definitely have an like had that angle. I've really been focused on textbooks and like that the effects there. So that's actually very interesting that you have that experience. So yeah, I would love to know about that connection.
Yeah, so I don't know too much about the equitable access connection to funding the gaming center. I wasn't a big part of the financing and the structure of the finances for how the gaming center came together. But I know that the equitable access did help to fund the gaming for a lot of the students. And if not every student uses the gaming center, I think it still creates a more valuable experience at SDSU in general, because any program that brings notoriety to San Diego State University, regardless of what student uses it, is going to increase the value of the San Diego State University degree, and in your case, the UCLA degree. And so that's how you justify equitable access, using their funding for the gaming center. The financing for that was not, there was no increase in our equitable access fee. I think that the Aztec Shops, which is the auxiliary on our campus that is in charge of all of that, found a way to structure the finances to be able to afford it without increasing the fee for students. But it ended up working out really well, and students didn't have a problem putting their equitable access dollars towards a gaming center.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. That really is interesting because, yeah, I haven't really interacted with it, kind of the program outside of textbooks here at UCLA. Before maybe we move to Mitali, does anyone have any council members have any questions for Tarek?
Yeah, and I'm sorry if that wasn't within the scope of the exact specific conversation. I'm just talking about my experience through the gaming center.
Yeah, no, don't apologize at all. That's definitely still very, very helpful. And I think that part about adding like long-term value to the campus is important and definitely something that's really at stake here. So thank you so much. It looks like there's probably there'll be more questions for both of you at the end, maybe, but Mitali, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, so you guys want to know how and who started on our campus and about the program, right?
Yes, would just love to hear, the summary of kind of the experience at your campus and maybe anything that's unique to your campus too.
Yeah, so on our campus, the Equitable Textbook program is started by our nonprofit, which is Beach Shops, and it has been there for 70 years. It has different stakeholders, just a background information on who manages the program. And they're responsible for providing the textbook, see it as a bookstore on campus. And they are responsible for supporting and enhancing the educational mission on our campus. So originally, since they are in the textbook, for long, like for 70 years, they have been providing textbook. They definitely saw the challenges coming, which were like access, affordability, equity. They saw the challenges where not having this textbook program would affect low-income students, students of color, first-generation students. They are the ones that are going to be most impacted. And so ultimately, we had a similar structure where we had David digital access, which we have right now. And we just decided to revamp it where we'll be introducing the program of fall 2024, which is like the way we designed it is it's like a flat rate digital first program. It provides all students with access to their required textbooks on the first day of classes, which is the most important part to bridge that equity gap. It leverages the financial aid dollars, and the cost is $250 per semester for full-time students and $165 per semester for part-time students, and the same applies for graduate students too. But yeah, is there anything you want me to focus on specific? Because this is what is like a very short brief about our program on how we're doing.
Yeah, definitely a few questions. So I think first, just to confirm, you mentioned that this program would be implemented officially in fall 2024, right?
Yes, the rates that I mentioned would be implemented in fall 2024. We have a similar structure right now, which is a textbook program that is available the first day, but it is just not we're just like adding more features to it, if that makes sense, in fall 2024.
Definitely, thank you. So I guess I want to ask, kind of what the experience was developing the new plan and incorporating student experiences into it. I feel like I would love to know what the student experience with textbooks is like at CSU LB, right? And what the response was then to this new program and how students are responding to it.
So our ASI, student government, passed a resolution in support, unanimous support, of this textbook program. We all support this program fully, the student government. My personal experience when I go out talk to students, they all really like the program and they want the program to be implemented, especially when I talk to students from STEM majors or heavy math majors. They are paying right now, I believe, I was talking to someone recently, more than $400 for their textbook. And they're really excited to see this program come to campus, just because they would be only paying $250, no matter what they're like, they would be paying less compared to right now. And personally, I paid $200 for a textbook my second year here. It was like an inbuilt textbook where you have to do homework online. It was interactive, so you can't really opt out and find that textbook anywhere else. And that was only for one class, and I had like 4 or 5 classes that semester. So I also had to pay $500 at one point. So I do believe this program really benefits the students.
Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Thank
I
you. I
do-
really appreciate that.
I do have to hop off really quickly. I don't think anyone has any questions from you. If you do, I do have to go right now, but I can answer a question if anyone happens to have one.
I think you're all good. We have to do something. We have your
Thank you.
email to contact you about further things. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much. Thank
Of course.
you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, exactly. Does anybody here have any questions for Mitali? If not, I think, I mean, I definitely have plenty of questions, but definitely ones that can be discussed later. I'll give you guys a turn.
Going once, going twice. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate you coming out and talking to our meeting today. If we do have any questions, Sujana and I could follow up with you to ask more about your experience, but thank you for taking your time again and have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Moving to our next special presentation, we have ASUCLA T-shirt contest updates. A BOD.
Okay, well, I have this massive check for you all. I'm here on behalf of ASUCLA. Every year we do our T-shirt contest, iconic T-shirt contest with a student winner. And the proceeds we split between USA and GSA. And so I'm here to present our $8,211 to USAC. So congratulations.
Right.
Thank you. Back to our agenda. So we have ASUCLA again, BOD, Embrace Referendum.
Yeah.
We pull up our presentation. How are we doing? Jocelyn will be pulling up the presentation for everybody to see. Awesome. Alrighty, thank you all so much for having me and us. It's great to be back. My name is Elia. I am a senior here, a undergraduate board member of ASCCLA Board of Directors and chair of our finance committee.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Fletcher. I am a PhD student in electrical and computer engineering here, and I am the chair of the ad hoc committee for ASCCLA.
So we are here today to present to you something that we have been working on really since before this school year even started. And that is our Embrace referendum. And what that stands for is establishing meaningful Bruin resources, activities, communities, and experiences. So I'm going to give a little bit of background around where this initiative came from. We heard earlier about, spatial needs on campus. And we continue to hear from students that there is a real lack and shortage of space when it comes to our most, important and vital student groups that really make the UCLA community what it is. And so that, there was advocacy this summer and for many years now around a cultural disability community center in honor of Lily Shaw. And that was brought to the ASCCLA Board of Directors in terms of by the Facilities Commission this past summer. How can ASCCLA address that? And so that was really an exciting starting point for us to think about how can we holistically look at what needs are not being met and how can we meet that as a student union. And we're going to go into what that means in terms of funding, what we're asking for, and then we will break it all down.
The next slide, please. Yes. Okay, so what you see right here is just an overview of the referendum fee levels. So our current fee is currently $23 per quarter, which is $69 per year. Which on this, as you see here, it is on the lower end of the spectrum amongst UC. Next slide. And what we are actually proposing is that there is a fee for $32 per quarter. Forgive me, my brain is mush tonight, but $32 per quarter. And one of the things I would like to note about this fee is that although it is not the lowest and it's not the highest, there's something very important about the way this fee is implemented here. And it has to do with the way UCLA and ASCCLA work as an organization. So ASCCLA is not a college, it's not a university. It is actually a unique organization. It's really one of a kind in the world. And for ASCCLA, we control 4 major entities. We do the Undergraduate Student Association, GSA. We do services and enterprises, which is student-run enterprises. We employ over 1,400 students on our campus. And one of the things we also do is ASCCLA maintains brand and marketing for UCLA. So UCLA is a worldwide recognized name. We're actually number 3. I think the first goes Harvard, Oxford, and then UCLA. And people think that UCLA is synonymous with California in our international markets. Other schools, we've heard other schools and students say that they don't know where their fees go, especially when you have fees that are so high. But with ASCCLA, our fees go to this organization, and what we tell you that they go to, because we want to work in partnership with the university and always supporting our students.
Yeah, so as you can see, right now we have the lowest student fee.
out of all of the UCs, and we're really proud of that. And that's a result of the profitable model that we have at ASCCLA that really subsidizes that. But we also want to ensure that we're not compromising on the quality of the services that we're providing to students. And that's why we're proposing this fee increase, to ensure that we are able to meet the needs of students, keep our fee again in the lower middle tier among the UCs, but not compromise on quality. But we want to lay out exactly what we're asking for and what this would cover. Next slide, please. Alrighty, so the biggest first thing that this funding would go towards would be immediately funding the establishment of the Lily Shaw Disability Cultural Community Center, space expansion and renovation. So this funding would go to support the renovation of space for 3 student community centers and additional support for facility costs for 2. So this would cover support space operation for existing centers while student affairs provides, the professional staff. The next thing that this referendum funding would go towards is student community support. So this would include food discounts for UCLA students, including those CalFresh. It would go towards supporting catering, supporting for student events, and increased funding for student outreach programs. And lastly, I'm super excited about this addition, which is a student wage increase of $1 per hour. So all ASCCLA hourly student employees would receive a payment increase starting next year. So again, all of these things are born out of needs for the student body. It isn't just ASCCLA, hey, we want, to increase our pot of money. This is really responding to needs that need to be addressed. And we are cognizant of the fact that asking to raise student fees is a big ask. And that's why so many of these initiatives are about actually alleviating financial burdens for students. And we'll go into what the alternative is if we go into this. Next slide.
So what does this address? So as Elliot stated, this is to address our evolving student body needs. The first ASCCLA fee was discussed in 2005. So it's been about 20 years since we've spoken about the fee, but since 2005, naturally the student body here at UCLA has evolved and changed. And so as the needs continue to evolve, we want to continue to meet them. And currently our organization does not have the financial strength to address with the current fee level, which specifically establishing new centers on this campus to address these minoritized communities. And other resource opportunities, of course, will also be pursued to complement this fee resource, but what we're asking is providing from the student body to ensure that not only you, but future Bruins can reap the benefits that ASCCLA has been able to provide on this campus since 1919.
Next slide, please. So what does it mean for a student to vote yes on this referendum? It means secure and competitive wages for ASCCLA employees. It means immediate funding for the creation of the Lily Shaw Disability Cultural Community Center. It means subsidized food costs in the UCLA store and across our ASCCLA entities, reducing stress for food insecure students. It means covered facility costs for established community centers, increasing programmatic funding across the board. And lastly, it means more funding for USAC and SOL organizations to really, again, enable you all to deepen the scope and impact of your work.
Next slide, please. So, of course, we're asking for your support, but if you're also offering up saying that we don't want to support this, we just want to make it very clear what a no does mean here. And it means that there is no wage increase for ASCCLA workers. And it means that we are not able to immediately fund the creation of this new disability cultural community center that we are hoping to establish in the near future. It means increased sale prices, because if we're unable to gather the funds in one way, we have to gather them in another way. Which means that food prices and other products across ASCCLA could increase, and I would not like to see that at all, especially with the rampant food insecurity going on at the moment. And then the cultural community centers that we currently have, our affinity centers, transfer student center, and BBRC would continue to bear the burden of facility costs. And I just want to make it clear that by facility costs, it also means rent. for those spaces. So by removing the burden of rent on them, it frees up over tens of thousands, if not $100,000 worth of funding that they could be using towards programmatic endeavors for these specific student groups. And of course, a lack of support means that we will have less funding for USAC and SOL organizations, which is not something that we would like to see here.
All right, so first of all, I want to thank you all for engaging in this process. Many of you I've met with individually and had a really insightful time getting to understand what your concerns are, what you think really is important to prioritize when it comes to this referendum. And I want to emphasize that this is also an opportunity to really establish our legacy here for future brewings. This isn't something that will be implemented in many of our times here. I know a lot of us are seniors, but this is something that could really leave a lasting impact when we talk about creating these cultural centers. Think about, all of the memories and incredible communities that can be built with this additional space. And when we think about all the other benefits of this, I am also, fully aware that this is not a small ask when we talk about the funding. And I want you to know that we take that very seriously, and we understand that the burden is on us to win the support of the student body. So we invite you to be a part of that process, and we also invite all of your questions and concerns as we continue to navigate this. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. All right, so now we will definitely open it up to questions from council members. Okay, we got two on the board. Eva.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming to USAC tonight to explain this proposal. Your time and consideration definitely means a lot. But I do want to echo the concern that I think, and I think again with the referenda and aims to fund is very valuable to the university, but I think you all know that a $165 amount is very risky. And to be very blunt about it, I do not feel that this is going to pass if it is that high. And I think ASUCLA would be better served to lower this amount and rethink their calculations and prioritize maybe one or two specific projects, just so that they can get some amount rather than none. And I don't know how long it took to develop this proposal, but I really think that, I to be honest, I do not think this is going to pass at this amount. Even though I am in support of conceptually what it wants to do. So I think my advice here is just to, if you have time to rethink the proposal before submitting it to the elections board, I really encourage you to do so and to lower this amount, just so it has a better chance of getting passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Just to address some of that, when we talk about addressing spatial needs, this is something that costs a lot of money. And getting this funding is really just the beginning of creating that baseline of funding that would then attract additional investment, whether we're talking Olympics and other sources that could really pour in to create the type of funding to create these really large scale projects that we need to address this. I can tell you internally, and as Finance Committee Chair, I've been pushing aggressively to push this as low as we can because it started at a much higher number. And I'm also aware of the political realities at UCLA. So I hear your concerns, and I think it's about continuing to make the case around what this will do in terms of alleviating the financial burden for students, even though the increase isn't insignificant.
And then we're gonna go to Alicia. Pass the mic.
Okay, okay, so I have a few points. For context, so I want to talk about the wage increase first. For context, I have worked 3 jobs at ASUCLA aside from my USAC position. I've been a barista at Broombus. I was a MTW stock fulfillment my first year in ASUCLA store. And then I worked at corporate office as well this past summer. There are a lot of issues with this because one, it's not gonna benefit all the students who have to pay this referendum. A lot of students don't work at UCLA. Personally, I hate working here, like in those positions, because my managers were weird or the working conditions were bad. The pay was really low, but it was the only option I had to get hired. So I know a lot of students are in those positions, but I do want to emphasize that ACCLA workers who are working minimum wage jobs cannot unionize. I've been to BOD meetings where ACCLA HR hasn't been transparent about how they're going to support students who are afraid of like being stalked on the internet or being like screened on the internet for their hiring practices, and they weren't clear about these things. Just a lot of concerns on that part. Like, I don't feel like ACCLA workers as of now are being treated fairly. A lot of my friends hate it. I would much rather have worked in housing if I would have known that I wouldn't have had a great experience because I didn't. And I just want to be honest with that. And I do want to bring up that last spring quarter, there was a Daily Bruin article about ACCLA technicians like not being paid overtime, or like there were labor practices that were not fair and that had to occur because there was just so much programming in the springtime and just lots of things. Just wanted to bring that up there. Like, I think there should be a lot of things addressed when it comes to ACCLA divisions and how they treat their students and exploit them. I think that this wage increase will not benefit lots of students. I see a lot of my friends come and go from ACCLA jobs and going to other parts of the other departments around the UCLA school and housing and rest life because of their experiences off the jump being really hard in their job. So it's not going to benefit all students, and yet they're going to have to pay for it. So that's one thing. Another thing, I want to know, like last year there was another proposal that was an ACCA referendum, and they showed us where their money came from very vaguely. I would like to see that. I would like to see a presentation on like where your budgets come from, because given that you're top 3 in the nation, I know those trademarks are bringing in a lot of money. I know the merch sales, ACCLA, I know that the actual cost of producing those sweaters is much less than what it is priced for. And so like, again, that's like scamming students and you're producing a lot of profit. So I think that ACCLA definitely has money. It's just not investing in things that this proposal would invest in. Thus, I think the redistribution of funding should be considered before you propose a referendum to students, especially such a high one. LA, expensive, something that Jonathan brought up in an email earlier, like LA, one of the most expensive cities to live in. To raise it to this amount is highly concerning for the same working class students that have to work jobs to be able to make a living, to be able to pay their housing and tuition. That's another thing for spatial needs. I think that should be a larger discussion that ACCLA imposes on chancellors and other UCLA entities, because I think that the USAC should really think about being a participant in UC Divest campaign. The UC should divest for BlackRock and other companies that are investing in genocide and arms manufacturing, and like reinvest that same money into these spaces for culture centers, which I also didn't enjoy that it wasn't specific. I also don't like that we weren't addressing the needs of the BVRC. Their ceiling is still leaking. How are you going to work on other disability cultures, on other centers, when their needs aren't even addressed? Every time it rains, it floods, it leaks. And the fact that that wasn't on the proposal in and of itself is racist. Like, you should have included like some remodeling for their ceiling instead of like avoiding that in your other proposals. I think that ACCLA also, in my time of working here, I saw a lot of spaces that weren't in use. Like, for example, the hair salon right over here. Well, it used to be a hair salon. I don't know if you guys knew. It's just used for storage for dental supplies. Last I was there, like 2 years ago or 1 year ago. I think that should be a space for students to have, like, and then the game room is something I don't see being used. I know, from talking to Roy, it used to be a Jamba Juice, but I feel like that space could also be like a center as well, like, there is already space that isn't being properly used and not gaining enough, attention from the student body to be like discussed on, like, the student body, students should be engaging in how ACCLA, that spaces that are currently here can be used and repurposed for other, initiatives and other programs. Also funding for Seoul and USAC is not specific, like, I would like to know how much, when, why, well, it's not obviously why, but how, like, what, when, who, that's also not specific. And I also would like to specify that ACCLA is not student ran in the way that we are student ran, the way that, other entities are student ran. I do not trust that this money is going to be like delegated by students themselves. So that's why I have my reservation as well. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing all those concerns. I'll start, first of all, I think when it comes to actual like complaints in terms of ACCLA, labor violations, anything like that, I think you came to a board meeting, and we had, our legal team kind of walk you through that. And again, we're happy to answer any of those concerns and questions, and we take that really seriously. When it comes to, you talked about how we bring in a lot of funding and our UCLA trademark, and I think it's a really good point. That's the reason that our student fee currently is the lowest out of, and we're $76. Berkeley is at over 500. The reason is because we have this profitable model, and it's a super innovative way to ensure that students are able to not have to carry the cost of that burden. I mean, ASCCLA as an organization is able to really help subsidize that. So we're super proud, of that model. And so we also have more details, in terms of where this funding goes, and we're happy to meet, one-on-one to break down all of the referendum. We have it line by line, in terms of where this money would go. We didn't have time to do it all today, of course, but this really is an iterative process because this is about getting buy-in from the student body, because this is for students, and that includes the BBRC. That is very much a part of our vision in terms of where this funding would be going, and in terms of updating these facilities and doing these renovations.
We're gonna go to Gabby and then Jeannie and then Sarah. Good job. Remember your order. And then Katie and then Laura.
I know you two probably looked at this already, but is there any other way to get funding for these projects without increasing student fees? Like maybe using surplus money?
That is a good question. This is something that's been discussed, but at the moment, this is the best option to go forward with, and not because we don't want to use surplus monies. The monies that we do have right now are currently being utilized for current different spaces, such as the you're mentioning for the BRC, things that, other buildings that need to undergo, things like seismic renovation. So at the moment, it's not really an option for us to go into surplus to fund this referendum.
Yes, I had a question on, one of the points, which is like covered facility costs for establishing, like centers, as well as, I think you also mentioned that the cost of space of operation would be reduced. Do you have, exact like numbers and like projections on how how much decrease that would be for students? And it's also okay if it's like a more detailed report somewhere else.
So that's a great question. What we will do is we do have, as Aaliyah said, the line by line breakdown for what the money goes to. So we can provide it to you all. And again, I do want to say that I appreciate all of this feedback. It is your process. So this is absolutely great to hear, to know what the students need. This is my first year on UCLA, so this is amazing. outside of this, for unable to answer questions, just to be clear, please feel free to meet with us. I think I reached out to almost everybody on this council, so please. Mhm.
How many of y'all did meet with ASUCLA Board of Directors? Thank you. So if you want to do your due diligence as a council member, I recommend you meet with them to talk about the in-depth of the proposal because they did reach out. Right? Thank you.
So yeah, we'll go to the next question, please.
Who is next in order?
Sarah can go before me.
Okay. That's enough.
Hiya, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate the time you took into this and coming to council. I had a question I was piggybacking off Eva's. I understand wanting to to build on this and expand on this, and which is why the funding increase is so high. Is there, even with that, does ASUC have with the different proposals within this proposal have a one that you prioritize or one that you would most want to fund, or are they all just we want to fund it?
I think the ones that require a lot of funding, I think orient around space especially. And like I said, it's not even enough on its own. We need that just as a baseline to attract more investments. And I think part of the reason we wanted to add things on top of that is because we understand that students need something that they can immediately understand is helpful to them and addresses their needs in the short term. Because this is really about a long-term investment, but we wanted to complement that with other things like a wage increase and food, food subsidies across ASUCLA stores. That would affect all students, not just ASUCLA employees. So we're really trying to engage as many student communities as possible. We're doing extensive outreach to the graduate student community because again, ASUCLA applies to all of that. So that was sort of our thinking behind it. We have to understand the level of funding that is needed to really create these new spaces is significant. And we want to match that with things that will alleviate the financial burden for students in the short and medium term. And also to address part of your question in terms of the other student spaces, like that covering their facility costs. I think what we meant by that is that that will free up the funding that's already allocated to them by the university to really invest in those student communities and in their programmatic funding.
Yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, Jonathan was next, but he go first. But I first want to say thank you to both of you definitely for coming and just so diligently responding, of course, to all of our questions. Also really appreciate that you reached out to all of us beforehand to meet and discuss. I definitely share the same reservations that other council members have expressed. No need to repeat. I think definitely the largest thing is just the number and students' kind of immediate response to that. And so I'm not sure what ASUCLA already has planned. I'm sure that there's plenty. You guys mentioned you're connecting with student groups. But if you haven't already discussed one, would you be open to basically just organizing a town hall with representatives from ASUCLA just there for maybe an hour for students to come and ask questions? I feel like if we advertise adequately, especially with physical flyers beforehand, I think there'd be tons of interest, especially because it's very directly, it's just an increase in student fees. Obviously this wouldn't be obviously it would not be a trap or anything. It would just be straightforward for people to get the information that they need. And I think that'd be great. And all of us can support you because obviously we don't just want to say we don't think it'll pass. We want to help you get as much feedback as possible.
We wholeheartedly support that idea, primarily because USAC is a small group, but you represent a bigger constituency. And like you said, this is an iterative process, so we are more than happy to present at large and have a town hall and further discussion.
I will reach out to you and maybe also cover the.
Cool. Jonathan. Yeah, I also would like to thank you all for being here, being responsive to our questions and answering them properly. Firstly, I'd like to start off with, as mentioned by Anicia, I did discuss the referendum with my fellow council members, and I did discuss that we need to thoroughly communicate this between us because I think it is, frankly, and I use this word very, not heavily, but I did use it. I didn't use it lightly. I said reckless. I think it is a bit reckless to bring up a single referendum to raise students up to $165. Again, like mentioned by Alicia, LA is facing, there is a cost of living crisis nationwide. And in particular, Westwood is one of the most expensive neighborhoods, not just in the country, but in the world. And I would like to address as well. Firstly, I did want to ask, in terms of these future community centers, have you all discussed this with them previously? Are there already plans of, for example, HSI with a Latina support center? I know I had discussed this with you all in the meeting we had, but you all had mentioned you had not had those conversations yet, but I wanted to ask if you had those conversations already, just because I find it fundamental, because if there's no solid plan to use the funds for a Latina center, you would be hurting the momentum that is currently picking up for a center for Latina students on the Hill right now. So have you all communicated with the HSI, with the BBRC, with the transfer center, with the centers already established, as well as the groups working actively towards those centers?
We have started further the conversation for the Latinx community. That has happened since our last conversation. So we thank you for pointing us in that direction. And we are currently continually scheduling conversations with the other affinity centers. So the conversations have not stopped at all. They're ongoing.
Okay, sensational. I have more questions.
Can I add to that? I think part of this also is like understanding our role as the ACCLA is providing these spatial needs for groups. We see that as part of our job. And we understand that currently we don't have the resources to sufficiently do that based on the need that we see. And the beauty of ACCLA having a student, board majority is that these funds will continue to be at the discretion of a student majority. And so we trust that in those hands, guided by the appointments of USAC, those will continue to be oriented towards the groups that need it most.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just really important to ensure that, holding these conversations for an ASU CLA space for Latinos, while there is active discussion for one, might end up swaying it in the middle instead of full support for one center to be established and then a potential center in the future. So that's my main observation in terms of that. I did want to mention as well that I did discuss with you all about dividing this into separate referenda, just because I don't love the idea of community centers being intrinsically entangled with the idea of raising minimum wage, which I do think is important. I just think, however, that those issues are fundamentally separate and they should be voted separately just because they are important. I wanted to put that point. I'm gonna be, I'm echoing what other council members said, and I'm not gonna, repeat myself, but that was mentioned as well. I did want to ask if you all had already communicated with financial aid about how many students would have this covered in their financial aid.
As far as return to aid or just having these fees covered by financial aid?
So per our meeting previously, for example, the referendum that passed last year that gave us these cards, they were provided information with financial aid saying that around 40 something percent of students in financial aid would not have to pay a single second for this. Have you all had those discussions with financial aid?
We don't have specific numbers on that yet. We understand that with any referendum, there's a percentage a large percentage of it that goes to return to aid. So back to the university, and then that is dispersed based on whatever the general disbursement of financial aid is accordingly. I think probably on some sort of scale. I don't have the exact metrics for you, but it's a totally valid thing for us to look into. So
yeah. I think that'd be really important just because myself as a student on financial aid, it's essential. And it's important more than anything. I do want to emphasize, I don't love the idea of putting the burden of supporting students on fellow students. I think more than anything, more of our pressure should be going on administration because solidarity is important among students, but I don't think students should bear the brunt financially of having to support their fellow student. In terms of a resource center and providing funds, providing the basic necessities to thrive campus. And I'm just gonna echo, like previously what I said, and I will repeat what I said in the meeting that we had privately with other USAC members. This will not pass. This will not pass. Students do not like fee increases. I'm being very blunt just because I really need this point to go across. Students do not like fee increases, and a grand majority of us on this board, on this council right now, we ran on maintaining those fees low as much as possible. So I'm giving you my honest and real feedback. I'd love for this referendum to pass. I really would, but it's just thinking about the other intrinsic issues going on within the world as well as everywhere else. I don't see the feasibility of that. And I just want to be very honest with you all about that.
Thank you for your feedback. And I also, something you said reminded me of this specific fee referendum is we're taking full ownership of it as ASUCLA. So we're not asking it to be a USAC referendum. We're not asking it to be a GSA referendum. We're not asking you to say like, we as USAC are putting this forward. This is an ASUCLA referendum. So I do want to make that clear. It is not, we are not expecting or hoping that the blowback goes to you all. We are shouldering the full burden of it, however it comes. So I do want to make that very, very clear.
Yeah, I think just to build on that point, this is going to students on the ballot. So if students choose this, they do, and if they don't, they don't. What we are gonna be asking from you all is the opportunity to sell this to students, and to really lay out what our vision is. And so I think that you all understand what the needs are. We are doing everything we can to engage the community to bring this down as much as possible to ensure that we are balancing the needs of the organization with the student body. And we will, do our best to build as much support, and we invite you to be a part of that process.
Thank you. We have some folks and then we'll go to Alicia. Did y'all want to?
Hi, thank you so much. Hi, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your guys' presentation. And I definitely agree that what you guys mentioned is definitely something that we should be prioritizing. I do, however, want to echo Jonathan's point. A lot of us did run on this idea that we wanted to decrease student fees, especially with inflation, and the idea of burdening other students with another student's needs is something that is really difficult just with inflation. I think it can really target those middle class students that don't quite receive financial aid, but their parents can't provide for them. And so they're, responsible for paying fees. And yearly we already pay over $2,100 in student fees. And I think I did the math with 167. Was it 167 or 165? Okay, well, if my math is wrong. But it's almost like a $200 increase per quarter or per year.
65.
It's a 32 per quarter.
Oh, okay, but like per quarter.
So
Okay.
total
So-
over the year, in addition to what already exists, would be
Right.
65.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. I do definitely think though that this idea of raising student fees is just mentally something that students don't want to support, which is why passing it would probably be difficult. And this is also something that I'm really excited about. Finding like another outside organization, especially to sponsor like the disability center, would be something that would definitely be manageable, and my office would love to help with that. Along with the other things you had mentioned, I don't know, a quick and easy way other than like raising the fee to be able to do that. But again, another thing that I think USAC should be prioritizing, if this referendum doesn't pass, then we should be doing everything we can to make sure that you guys are getting financially funded. But overall, I just think that the burden for students is really high, especially for those students that pay their own fees. And, the majority of students are, paying somewhat of their tuition, I would assume. And so this is just something that, at least when I was running, I was really passionate because I do pay my own student fees. And so when I see a student fee increase, I think, oh no, that means more hours worked, more of my money going to UCLA. And I may not be able to use every facility that is offered, because it's not, it's not for me, someone's facility, so I definitely think just in general, finding outside organizations would be something that would be manageable, and I'd love to help out with that.
Thank you for that feedback. And we have strongly considered the number of students who self-support. This is something that's very near and dear to me as a graduate student, because we have dozens of hundreds, thousands of professional students who are self-supporting. So we are actively, while we continue to present this is what we're looking for. We're looking for that feedback that lets us know what the buy-in is for students who are self-supporting and for students who may not utilize every single resource that comes through ASU CLA. So I thank you for bringing that up, and I look forward to having conversations on how to make headway in some of these initiatives that we are putting forth.
Yeah, once again, reiterating everyone else's thanks for you all coming up, presenting, and also just, I know that being in the position that I'm in the facilities commission, knowing the amount of work that has gone into this, like not only on my commission's behalf, but on the behalf of the committee that has undertaken this project. I know that it's been a lot of work, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time today. I do also hope that you take into consideration all the feedback that we've given in our one-on-one meetings and all the feedback that you're receiving today. I also want to emphasize that I think it would be a little bit helpful to have a little bit clearer of an organization of like where the funds are going to go. And I'm saying this as someone that did have a meeting with you all and has had meetings with you on multiple occasions. I also think that this referendum is, the Facilities Commission has a unique stake in this, and that you have specifically outlined that you plan to use these funds that will be raised by the referendum towards the implementation, towards the renovation of existing spaces to build a disability cultural community center in Lily Shaw's honor. I want to stress to everyone in the room that this is something that has been an ongoing project for years, and is something that my commission has struggled with a lot, and I appreciate ASCCLA partnership in this endeavor. However, I also want to kind of second Sarah's concern or understanding of kind of where the funds are going to be going. There is a priority. I think in our previous meetings, it was my understanding that the Little Shaw Disability Cultural Center would be high on that list. It is also my understanding that the funds would be used as soon as possible, and I think it would be helpful to have a more clear timeline of when as soon as possible is, because as many people have mentioned here today, and as you all are aware, student needs need to be met when they need to be met 5 years ago, need to be met 10 years ago.
Yesterday.
Yeah. So this is me kind of advocating more for a little bit more attention towards the disability cultural center aspect of this referendum. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I fully hear you. Again, like I mentioned, I brought it up first for a reason in terms of how this referendum came to be, and it remains at the top of that list in terms of our priorities. That is a promise that we are making in terms of the Disability Cultural Community Center. And yeah, again, I just want to reiterate, like, we will continue to engage and be transparent. We have more specific breakdowns. We didn't present them today, but we are more than happy to share that with all of you and continue to show exactly where this funding is going, because we have nothing to hide. This is for students and by students.
Okay, so I want to start off by echoing what Jonathan said about financial aid. I want to emphasize that like the referendums that have passed in recent years, in the past decade, have been really small. And even those small referendums have not, some of them have not passed, some of them have been highly like, just like controversial, even if it's like, for example, last year's was $3.30-ish. I don't remember like which the cent amount, but yeah, like that's for sure. I do understand how financially it can cover those amounts, but $165, like, no, I don't think that that's something that they'll probably be able to cover fully for students that are low income. It's exponentially larger than any other referendum that we really see in USAC. And I just want to say, like, yes, like, if there is like public scrutiny of this referendum, it's going to fall on ASUCLA. We understand that it is your referendum, but it is our responsibility as a council to even put this on the ballot and stress students out. It's going to stress so many students out to see that it is a possibility for them to have to be charged this much, because they don't know if their vote is going to be the one that wins. And I think that that is something that here in the room we're in charge of. I do love the idea that Sejana brought up about a town hall, but I think the timeline is just too small at this point. I wish that it was, well, this referendum idea was brought up like last quarter or even earlier this quarter for us to have discussed in previous time. I wasn't able to schedule a one-on-one because of my programming this quarter, and my work with student work has been a lot, and that's my priority. So I'm sorry on my end for that. But I also want to add that I think I do wish there was like a specific referendum ran by students like FACT to fund the cultural center specifically, because that's what I do want to make happen. But I do want it to be in the hands of students. Don't want it to be in the hands of like ASUCLA. I think it should be ran by students because it is a place for students. I also want to add that what's this referendum gonna look like in 50 years when you won't need as much to build it from scratch, to build these spaces? That's gonna be so much more money. And I understand that could address other needs and that financial needs in the future, but like to charge this amount, and for in the future for students to not have the need to pay for that once the facilities are fully installed, like that's pretty concerning, just in the long term for future students in 30, 50 years, or even earlier than that. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I don't think we should vote to put it on the ballot personally. I do agree that it is a little reckless and just like not specific enough in the presentation. I don't think students will receive it well at all, especially working class and poor students.
Thank you again for sharing, honestly. We have been working on this and doing extensive outreach. I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to meet with us earlier because I think your voice was important, but we have been reaching out. We're not reaching out at the last minute. We've been having these meetings for weeks. And I think, you know, the onus falls on all of us as student leaders to be cognizant of that. And so we're proud to have led a really transparent process, to have done extensive outreach. And so we're not going to apologize for that. I think in terms of ASUCLA as an organization, I have to reject the notion that it's not student-led. We are standing here on behalf of ASUCLA. No decisions get made on this board of directors, which is the governing body of the organization, without student support. We have 4 undergrad reps and 4 graduate representatives. We take our job seriously. We are appointed by these bodies. And so I think it's false to suggest that it's not a student-led enterprise. And I think it's a really incredible and unique organization, and that's something that we're proud of.
I was next, but I'll just hold my question. Or should I say that too?
No,
That's already my question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, general question.
Less than a question, more just like a comment. I was able to meet with these students and I let them know that meeting too, but I think all of the ideas are like really great and really necessary, and I hope that that you guys can take the feedback from council and like continue to work on the referendum. I thought it was a really good point that Alicia made that what would this referendum fee like look like over time? Because I think about it and like for SWC, we are funded by the referendum fees from like the 1990s or whatnot. And it's like still that same price, but like that has aged well for us. But like what would this one look like in the future? We don't know. So I think that's something of interest of like maybe because one piece of feedback I gave you guys was that maybe we're trying to do too many different things. I know it's because there's that many things that need to be addressed and you're trying to address them all and not leave anybody out. But it gets a little bit hard to understand. Like I feel like I'm sitting here and I'm racking my brain because I'm like, this is my job to like understand this and I want to understand. But the average person is just gonna swipe on Instagram away. You know, a student is not gonna listen. I feel like I talked to you guys too, but I feel like the transport referendum last year was like so successful because it was so easy to understand and like they had a great marketing approach. So like some kind of like rebrand for this, I feel like would be even like great, maybe like an oh actually there is an acronym, but you know, just something. I feel like more visual, like more of that, and then yeah, just thinking about like, is there possibly a way to like cut down on the different things that we're trying to address? Because like folks are expressing, especially about the resource centers and such, like there are different people on campus that are working on these things too. It's not just you guys. So like what can specifically you guys do to support and like what can we like really focus on? And that was it for me, but it's really great that you guys are doing this. I fully support all of the ideas. I think we need everything. Yeah.
Thank you for the feedback and thank you for also noting that there are that many things that we are trying to address in one. But we do take this feedback and we'll take this feedback with us. As far as visuals are concerned, absolutely, it's something that we have planned for. But first we needed to talk to you all before we could just start releasing visuals all willy-nilly without having some sort of concrete plan and understanding of what the student body needs. So we're not beyond say there will be visuals or working on it, but we are definitely going to take your feedback to ASUCLA, to the rest of the students on the board and the board itself, and discuss what we've heard tonight.
And like, I think I said this in the meeting too, but I almost feel if you guys have the bandwidth, if you could even like split this up into like 2 referendums or like 3, I don't know how easy, if that's easier said than done, but I feel like then there's more success of like at least getting like 1 or 2 wins. Because I know you guys are saying like, you're just presenting this because like, you want this to be said, but also like, don't we want this to pass? Like, don't you guys want to win too? So, you know, what are our best chances at actually achieving that? Because I want to see you guys win.
Thank you.
Sorry, very last quick comment. Just just want to thank you guys for the very thorough proposal and all the thought put into it. I apologize, I haven't met with you guys in person just yet, but I also want to just advocate for splitting the referendum up into multiple ones. Also, just because just seeing that number is very daunting for students, and a lot of them wouldn't take the time to figure out, you know, what's going on, where the money is going. They're just going to see the number and just be like, no. But if you split it up, there's a chance that they would vote yes on like 2 instead of, it's like a psychological thing, I feel. So that is one thing that I want to like push for. And then the second thing to get it passed as well is if you could rally to get student groups from, you know, the different student groups who are going to benefit from these centers to be the ones like really pushing for it. That's going to be a huge plus as well, because we saw last year with like the transit referendum, it's very, very like students at the front telling like, I am going to benefit from this and who's going to benefit from this. That has a lot of power, especially because I think people associate ASUCLA as like an organizational entity, but if you can put students at the front of that, that's going to help you a lot more. Yeah, but thank you again.
Thank you for that. What I did want to say before I lose the thought completely, one of the reasons the referendum is presented as a whole like this, and I understand the breaking down, suggestion to break it into pieces. One of the things that we were most concerned about is if we just launched a referenda, especially specifically around spaces, the students who do not or cannot utilize or will not utilize those spaces would then vote no, because they don't identify as having a disability, they may not be a part of that community. And so we didn't want to risk having it be shut down because you didn't fit into the affinity group that we were primarily advocating to, if that makes sense. And so our goal was to create something that impacted all Bruins, as opposed to just specific affinity groups. And then to your second point about reaching out to those organizations and centers, we just want to reemphasize that these are conversations that are continually happening. So even though they haven't happened yet, we are doing meetings and meetings and meetings, trying to specifically meet with those constituencies. So again, we're not hoping to push anybody out. We want to hear from everyone. It's just a very tedious process to reach all the different communities. But thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, echoing everybody, I want to thank you all for this time. I want to thank you for reaching out to folks to individually me. I want to apologize because I gave you the advice to reach out to individually to people. And maybe we should have just done in the beginning. So I apologize on my behalf for that. But honestly, y'all, we have feedback that we want to give. I think we should meet. We should continue to provide the feedback, even though like we said, we have a ton of ideas because we represent a large constituency. So do our due diligence there and raise those concerns and then advocate for others to be able to raise those concerns as well, before it does go on the ballot. So, or if it does go on the ballot, sorry. Okay. Let's continue if there's not anything else. Thank you. Now we're gonna go into the proposals first glance. So remember, this was our 2-minute elevator pitches for the proposals that were submitted. And we will go ahead and get started on that. Megan, are we gonna have you share screen or you want to jump into?
I can share screen.
Okay. Oh, sorry, what? Oh, and then the timer?
Oh, I do
Or-
not have a timer on my screen.
Jonathan has a timer? Okay. So how should we do that? Oh, Jonathan will just like give us like it's 2 minutes per slide. I honestly don't think everyone will need the 2 minutes to explain their idea. And it's just an initial, this is the full presentation, how we said in week 10 of what we agreed to. This is literally just quite an elevator pitch.
Okay, everybody.
Yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
then we'll do comments and questions in the discussion portion on new business, not at the end, or should we just do it at the end? Cause, I don't know, special presentation time was supposed to be like 2 minutes, and so I'd rather just wait till we do it at the new business, is that okay? Let's agree?
I agree.
A discussion on the proposals. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so just beginning, again, 2 minutes per slide. Yeah, so just beginning, we have gotten 37 surplus proposals that were submitted to us. The available funds that we have is $1,119,225.16. The total request and allocation of all the maximum requests combined was $3,485,415.98. A very different number. Please think about that during this next discussion, the new business. We're just gonna start with a proposal from SGA. They only proposed one thing, so if anyone from SGA wants to present on that.
Jessica's gonna get on the mic.
I can go ahead and give sort of an update or kind of overview of what this is. So student government accounting, as you all are familiar with, is a business service of both USA and GSA. We process requisition forms for pretty much every single student that receives funding from either body. And you know, within your budget annually, there are costs to cover operations of that space, but not for major kind of like furniture and storage needs, which if any of you have been in that space recently, you know, it definitely needs some love and care. So just bringing this forward now to get this work started earlier rather than later, so that we don't have to wait for the next budget cycle to accommodate the cost. So essentially it's just $7,000 for furniture and filing cabinet storage to store requisition forms and documents that we have processing for accounting. And we are going to be asking for cost share for GSA as well, because again, this is the business service of both entities. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. See, that all took 1 minute. Okay, I'm honestly gonna take a minute.
Okay, we're now moving on to Office of the President proposals. So let me know when you want me to change slides or anything like that.
Okay, I'll just tell you next when I'm ready. Well, actually, yeah. Okay, first one is room card fee waivers. We are asking for $4,000 for that. That was the previous allocation a couple of years ago by a previous USAC council member. And what that did was the replacement cost for room cards is basically $25, and they were able to lower it to $10, giving a waiver to students. It's a cheaper cost for students to be able to access where they live in the dorms, to buy food, because I know a lot of people have lost their room cards, and I don't think cost should impact them to get their thing. So just helping to subsidize that a little bit, 25 to 10 is quite a difference for a lot of people. And so yeah, it was a previous thing that was successful. It's just a simple transfer to that office in the permit and they would be able to run it. So it doesn't take too much work. I'll go ahead to the next one. This is a $10,000 support to the LGBTQ plus resource center on our campus. This came out of fall quarter. I had a meeting with the previous director that has now since left, Andy, but really sweet person. And we had this discussion because usually Student Wellness Commission is able to send them $10,000 every like basically fall quarter to run some programs dealing with student wellness, leadership programs, annual leadership institute for students, training for students in HIV self-test kits. However, there were some issues and they didn't end up getting that 10K for this year. So I was hoping to basically help and subsidize that back to them. Because that's usually, they basically incorporate it into their budget at this point because they were getting it annually. And so that was the motion there. Next. Elections Board candidate supplies and reimbursement. As you know, Elections Board this year, not saying it's a struggle, but it was a struggle to appoint our one chair. And right now, the chair is doing everything. Like, you have to spell it, like everything. Like, has no support, no team, and it's so unfortunate because I was hoping it would be someone from the last board, but unfortunately with the application, there was just a lot that happened and they weren't able to take on doing the election this year. So right now, I'm supporting, Megan's supporting in the best way we could. We were reposted the candidate things, but I think a large driver in running is cost. My campaign was very expensive. I know a lot of y'all spend a lot of money in campaigns. A barrier in cost shouldn't be a reason why somebody doesn't run an election. I remember when I ran for Gen Rep, I got $200. And then the next year when I ran for president, I got 50, and it was the brewing card deposit. This is the part of this reimbursement is so that candidates can have supply. As our elections board chair has stated, she's really hoping that when it comes to elections, getting the word out to students, relying on the candidates. So with that, candidates need support, need funds. So I believe this amount came from, or actually no, this amount came from based on the amount of people that ran last year and being able to give them up to $250 for supplies to run a campaign successfully. So yeah, that was that. We'll move on to the next one. So leadership banquets. As you all know, last year, Carl held a president's banquet. The idea for this is a little bit different. $30,000 is the maximum, but 15, I think I put it as the minimum there. I think my vision for this is the theme of passing the torch. When I think about leadership, I think it's not only the president, I think it's the staffer, I think it's the director, I think it's everything that makes that office run. I envision something where you invite someone from your senior leadership. Doesn't have to be specifically the president, but then also an incoming first year, second year, first year transfer to the event as like your +1 from your student org. I'm asking student affairs for money, so it's not only coming from student fees from the surplus, and they've tentatively agreed. So if you get the funds, none of that's not only coming from there. I do have outside support and outside organizations that are willing to help. This will be a good interaction for students to engage with administration because I know there's not that many opportunities to, and we already have people that have agreed to come to the event to speak, to basically have people connect among clubs as well. It wouldn't just be a dinner and go home and be like, oh my God, I did this. It's somewhere where clubs can actually connect with one another and hopefully build relationships, especially in spring quarter as transitions will be happening for a lot of our orgs on our campus. Get a chance to meet people, plan some things over summer, and maybe come back fall full swing. That's really my plan for it, and yeah, I think it'd be a great time. Move to next. ECRT funding. I was thinking of ways to support students that need it the most. And thinking of some of those students, I definitely thought of ECRT as someone that's applied to ECRT myself. They supply emergency grants, basic needs grants, emergency meals, emergency housing, and case management support. This would be a simple transfer to their office to continue the work that they do for students that need it. That's it for that. Blue Buns in Scantron. So as we know, that fund has long dried up this year. So students have now been having to pay for Blue Buns in Scantrons. And I've definitely heard the feedback, especially like coming down to the ACCLA stores sometimes. I see a student like go to pick up a Blue Book and they're like, oh, we have to pay for that. And it's like, oh, yeah, we did that. So back in, what was it, 2019, they did the actual proposal for this. They originally, in the Daily Bruin article I read, it said 45,000. I thought I might as well try and up it to 50,000 to last for the couple other years. This would just be a direct going to the ASCCLA store to cover that fund if any student does need a Blue Book or Scantron. I just got the numbers today from Jessica, put me in touch with somebody that I used to oversee it. So definitely, I believe this could be lowered a little bit and happy to talk about that in our group discussion later on. But that's about it. It's just the Blue Books and Scantrons to make them free for students. Next. Center supports, like in line with the things of sending support to the various places on campus that could definitely use it. I thought of the Black Learning Resource Center, the Transfer Center, our Learning Resource Center, and Veteran Center. And the idea is to send an equal amount to these centers to provide additional funds / support to them so that they can better serve the students that mainly occupy those spaces and visit them quite often and support the work that they are continuing to doing, whether that's programming, whether it's their food pantries, and other things of that nature. That was it for that. Commuter parking permit grants. This number is based off of what was successfully done in spring quarter of last year with the help of Sarah, shout out to her, and our previous TSR Tyra with funds that were donated from that office and doing parking permit grants for commuter students. Parking permit grants are now $300 a quarter. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money as a commuter myself. It's outrageous, I'm not gonna lie, to pay to just come to campus when I pay tuition, like, not gonna lie. So last year we were able to supply, it was around 59 parking permit grants for spring quarter, when we had over 250 people that applied. And so this number would supply about 125. If we give it the full allocation, it would supply 125 for this quarter, in fall, winter, and spring of the next year, because it would just be a direct transfer to the commuter programs office. We already have the application because we successfully ran it last year, already have the people that will be reviewing the applications because the commuter department, along with Sarah at the transfer center, were able to review the applicants, them and their teams. So that was really nice. It didn't have to come from my staff. It was able to be successful done. I know we could do it again and it would be very smooth of a process because we already have the help. So I think that would be a really great thing to kind of get back to that population. Next. This one is my most important one that I think goes without saying just by the title. A lot of student organizations need funding, and that is most certainly true for spring. In thinking about this, I know clubs have a lot of asks. I know a lot of events happen, from culture shows to end of year programming to graduations to all of the above. And I just think it's best to allocate those funds to our already existing funding bodies, be that BOD, be that contingency program that are already applied to so much, and we just do our due diligence and market it better. And I think at least half of our funds should go there. And that's not even half. I should have upped it to literally quite half. I just wasn't thinking in time. But in looking at this, they already have teams that review. If we need to do additional appointments, I'm willing to make that happen. But I think this is the most important thing that we can do as a council, and being able to just have students be able to apply for funds. And as I mentioned, as I mentioned to some, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to mention to all, is that with this, we can, with usually like BOD has like the $5,000 cap, we can temporarily raise that cap for students to apply for, given the additional funding concerns, funding needs for various organizations. So that could be a way to kind of dispel that, I guess, scenario. But yeah, that would be the argument there. And yeah, that is all I have.
Perfect. Now we're moving on to my office's surplus proposals. I have a few people in the audience that are going to be presenting on behalf of me. So just starting off, I believe Ethan and Joe, if they're there, if you could give them a microphone.
Yeah. One sec.
Okay. Hi guys, good to see you all again. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Ethan. I'm a part of the Empowering Student Engagement Committee in the IVP office. And basically what me and Joe have been working on this year is helping new clubs get resources and aid to just kind of get set up and get started. And so today I'm presenting on behalf of the IVP Partnership Fund. We are requesting $50,000 for our fund. Historically, the IVP Partnership Fund funds new clubs, still figuring out how to navigate campus, services, funding laws, bylaws, all that good stuff. And this fund would really give newer clubs an advantage by getting more funding for their activities and events. I've heard that contingency usually runs out pretty early on in spring quarter. And so this is a really good way for clubs to keep applying, keep getting money for events and whatnot. So yeah, just to reiterate, we ask for your support the IVP Partnership Fund for our request of $50,000. Thank you guys.
And then I believe I have Josh in the audience as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Josh. I'm the assistant IVP. And this year we are requesting $150,000 for our housing relief fund. And this fund is meant to alleviate food insecurity as well as provide rent relief for students. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been a lot of increases in rent prices over the recent years. In February 2024, the average monthly rent for a two-bedroom apartment in Westwood was over $4,700. On-campus residents are expected to pay over $18,000 for meals and housing. And these high prices have created a significant financial burden among the student body, disproportionately affecting marginalized students. Across the UCs, 1 in 20 students are experiencing homelessness, and both homelessness and housing insecurity disproportionately affect marginalized students, including Latinx and Black students. Depending on my financial need, last year we were able to allocate between $150 to $850 to students applying to our fund. But that's not even enough to cover 1 month's rent. Like personally, I pay $1,200 each month to share a small apartment with 3 other people. So we're seeking to allocate more funds to more people this year. We'll be partnering with the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office to ensure that we're allocating funds evenly, and that they're being applied to students with financial need. We'll also be sharing a rubric with all of you later this week, to show how we'll be allocating the funds to students based on financial need, urgency, and how financial need has impacted their academic performance. Last year, we were able to allocate funds to 104 recipients, and this year we're looking to almost triple that number to 294 participants, which still represents a very small portion of students on this campus. If you guys have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to me or Megan about the fund, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Office of the External Vice President. Eva, do you have any people online that I should promote?
Yeah, please promote 3 people first. Delia, Jenna, and William Chow. Yeah, just those 3.
Okay, I think they've all been promoted.
Okay, sounds good. The first 3 in here will be covered by William. The 4th one will be covered by me, and then the 5th one will be covered by Delia and Jenna. So I'll pass the mic off to William.
Hi everyone. The first one is ISA Transfer Meet Weekend. It's a American Indian student transfer weekend, and it's a free event by recently admitted Native and Indigenous transfers. This event will take place in person on campus after the Ruin Day festivities, so students won't have to pay for a separate trip to UCLA. So ISA is requesting for a lot of like food and catering, and it basically provides information to students who are recently admitted on kind of becoming a native Bruin. Yeah. The additional ask for funding is increasing capacity for the event. So this one I requested 15K, even though they only asked for 5K, because currently they can only take 40 students. So I was hoping to expand that and provide more guests and family to the event. If the requested budget is fulfilled, it just basically helps increase exposure. And I think if we are doing like land acknowledgements, I also want like real material like assistance for students, especially transfers and Indigenous students. So this would basically provide resources and guidance to people who were admitted, but not sure if they're enrolling yet. So yeah. Next slide, please. This is the Student Empowerment Network Day. This is Student Empowerment Networking Day, and this is hosted by the Filipino Transfer Student Partnership. This is a offshoot of Samahang Filipino, a student organization, and it basically does a similar role where it welcomes newly admitted students and self-identifying Filipino ex-transfers to UCLA and provides a glimpse of what it's like to be a Bruin. It's a culturally inclusive for other newly admitted transfer students. It is not exclusive to the Filipino community. This is also an opportunity to meet and connect with other transfer students through a mentorship program and a fun-filled day with workshops, social activities, tours, foods, resources, and much more. I have like the full budget breakdown for this one. We have pretty much the catering figured out and most of the swag and stuff that the funding requests for. They have also like previous days that have been largely successful. They have a website that kind of shows what turnout has been. It's usually been about like 200 students. So this would provide the expected outcome is about 300 students. And yeah, next slide, please. Lastly, this is the transfer meet weekend. This is the more generalized version. And I know this happened last week with Tyra. So UCLA's transfer admit weekend offers a dynamic and immersive experience, specifically welcoming transfer students. It provides, I'm going to say it's like similar to the previous 2, but this is a more generalized one, and I think the overall expected student outcome is a lot higher. It's going to provide panel discussions with current transfers, dine in with faculty and staff, and help explore like academic opportunities as well as like research and how to like get into research. It also provides a lot of community engagement. One of the issues with being a transfer is there's like a lack of transitional help, and I think having these admit weekends, especially like prior to enrolling, is really important for like meeting community, meeting new people, and kind of figuring out whether or not this is like your place at UCLA. And transfers like are 1/3 of like the student population, and even though we make up 1/3, we make up only half of the funding for like admit day weekends. So like freshmen have double the amount of money transfers get like per capita. So this would just kind of like rectify that. So yeah, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I will be presenting on the EVP Safe Parking Initiative proposal. So safe parking has obviously been getting a lot of ground recently at UCLA. USAC recently unanimously endorsed or passed a resolution in support of AB 1818. But as we all know, the UC is exempt from state laws that would actually mean that the bill would have to actually go into effect at UCLA. So we're trying to really bypass that by putting the money where our mouths are. This would be funds that we would transfer to the UCLA Transportation Department in order to fund for a safe parking initiative that gives Bruins who sleep in their cars at night a place to do so safely. We have a lot of research from the City Lab at UCLA, as well as the UCLA Lewis Center for Regional Policy Studies that we will include in further discussions. But these research proposals do indicate a severe lack of attention to the supercommuter Bruins and others who are housing insecure, indicating a need for further funding for facilities like the Bruin Hub and other facilities that would allow students who do sleep in their cars to do so safely. With the John Wooden Center being closed for 2 years starting in fall 2024, and no clear presentation yet from UCLA Recreation, who I have been in contact with for full disclosure, about the specific plan that Bruin Hub will follow during this closure. We think the Safe Parking Initiative also fills this gap that will leave a lot of Bruins out of a place to sleep without Bruin Hub. And in concluding my presentation tonight, I also did want to call attention to the letter that we all received from Pyra today, demanding that USAC vote to distribute the surplus funds from last year that were restricted, as well as considering the EVP's proposal for academic reparations that fall under the UCSA RJN campaign. I think that I support these asks personally, and I also hope that at council they can get some formal answer, and that's all I'm talking about. I'm done.
Thank you.
I'm done.
I believe you have one more proposal.
Yeah, the next slide will be covered by Delia and Jenna.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Delia, and I'm a member of Ignite at UCLA. So we're requesting the surplus funding to go towards UCLA Care Office, Campus Assault Resources and Education. Just a disclaimer, we did originally ask for the full $1 million, but we know that's likely not feasible, so we'd like to decrease it to $500,000. CARE could use any funding that you all can allocate. So CARE is necessary as it provides free and confidential post-assault resources to students, faculty, and staff, and they're 100% confidential, whereas Title IX is not. Despite this, CARE has a history of being extremely underfunded and understaffed. They receive no direct funding from the regents, and some campuses, CARE staff have to spend their time applying for temporary grants. There's an extremely unsustainable working environment leading to a high turnover. As of 2020, 50% of care center staff had a tenure of 2.5 years or less. So the focus of this surplus at UCLA would go towards moving UCLA Care's care office as it's right next to case management. So when perpetrators get called to report to case management, survivors could run into them, which is not safe and has deterred survivors from seeking support in the past. Additionally, UCLA's care office is too small. Confidential advocates providing counseling to survivors share desk space with other care staff. So when survivors come in to seek support, the other staff have to take their laptops and go sit in the hallway, which again, this is part of the unsustainable working environment. The funding would also be used to bring back healing events, which are group events such as trauma-informed yoga or arts or crafts. However, due to staffing shortages, these had to stop. Lastly, we know that this surplus funding will not permanently solve many of the understaffing and underfunding issues with care, as it is like a one-time thing. But we hope that in addition to addressing the most immediate UCLA care needs, that USAC supporting care will put more pressure on the regents to start giving permanent direct funding towards care offices, which is a necessary resource for students, and to combat gender-based violence on UCLA's campus. Thank you.
We will now be moving on to Office of the Gen Rep 1. Katie.
I believe I'm not presenting this because I got added to the other one. And I also have 2 submissions. And I think this is my first submission, not my second one, which I was told my first would be deleted. But anyways, I think it was an accidental submission. I think this is just for director stipend, and I think my request is gonna be added with like everyone's amount for the rest of it.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. Okay, then we can move on to Office of the Gen Rep 3. Jonathan.
There we go. All right, so I'm presenting the Latino Student Prosperity Fund, or the Latino Student Prosperity Fund, or the LASPROF. So it's intended to fund a bunch of a variety of Latino organizations, in particular 8, the Hispanic Serving Institution, so HSI, Grupo Folclórico de UCLA, Afro Latinx Connection, Latinx Admit Weekend, Society of Latinx Engineers and Scientists, La Gente News Magazine, Unión Centroamericana de UCLA, and Grupo Estudiantil Oaxaqueños. So these 8 clubs provide a variety of services all throughout campus, in particular HSI with the Bienvenida, Grupo Folclórico with their Fiesta Mexicana, Afro Latinx Connection with their annual show. All in all, to say that this fund has the intention of providing relief to these organizations. Ultimately, it's important to fund them more than anything because UCLA has the promise of becoming an HSI by 2025, but it's not affording that fund and those fundings towards those Latino organizations. I got these numbers directly from Latino organizations themselves in my Latino caucus, who have previously discussed that they don't necessarily have these insights when it comes to other sources of funding. Ultimately, while I don't expect to get the full amount, I definitely think that a majority of it needs to be funded because these organizations are doing the important work of building community for Latina people, in particular because there is a lack of a Latina Success Center. So ultimately, I think it's fundamental to fund this. And, you know, it's based off on prosperity, you know, an essential thing for the Latina community. And, you know, this community will continue to prosper regardless of how much funding it gets. And, you know, I hope it serves as a model for future bodies of funding that will provide these services to the variety of Latina communities, just because we are a beautiful, diverse, incredible community, and more than anything, resilient. So ultimately, this funding it'll provide a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to Academic Affairs Commission. Sujana, is there anyone that you need to promote?
No, just me.
Okay, perfect.
Right, so this is my surplus proposal for ASRF. This year, this quarter rather, we had to move $2,000 from our spring quarter allocation to our winter quarter allocation for ASRF because the demand was so high. And we have been funding a lot of important things through ASRF, including individual attendance to research symposiums and conferences, but also numerous organizations, engineering organizations, like Sanskrit, cultural organizations, so on and so forth. The demand for ASRF is very high, and so we would love this amount of money to supplement it, or else we would not be able to meet all the demand this year, which is the same case with my next proposal, which is the Books for Bruin spring allocation. So this is slightly more urgent because while we do have a bit of money left for ASRF, we have no money left for Books for Bruins for the spring. This is because we actually front-loaded the money in our budget for fall and winter quarter. We anticipated the high demand we would receive.
and demand exceeded the amount of money that we had available to allocate. So we asked for $1,000 just because I think managing that amount of money is like best for AAC right now. We would definitely like to even expand that next spring quarter if we're able, but just starting with this would be more than helpful for so many students. So thank you.
Perfect. Now we can move on to Campus Events Commission. Mason, is there anyone that you need to promote?
No, it's just me.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, hi everyone. I only have two proposals. The first one is the one that CEC comes every year for. It's the Brew and Bash reimbursement. But you will notice it's a lot less than past years. I think in past years it's been like around 60 to 80,000. This year it's $12,572.64. Because we brought in sponsorships and we were able to put down a deposit before the summer, and we had help from Vice Chancellor DeLuca, which is really exciting. So yeah, we're really excited that this number is a lot lower, but we would still like to get it reimbursed because this number comes out of, or already came out of the CEC account, not the designated account that's like reserved for Brew and Bash funding, which is kind of a larger conversation about Brew and Bash funding in general, but we would like to have this amount reimbursed so that it doesn't affect CEC's programming for the rest of the year, because we do kind of budget it into the plans that we've already made. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that. The next one is the Afrofest honorarium reimbursement, which is for Afrofest from last year. Yeah. So yeah, not Afrofest from this year, Afrofest from last year. We found out that I think over the summer that the rec somehow didn't go through, or long story short, the check never arrived and we had to cut a new one. And by the time we cut the new one, it came from our account this year, which, and also it's not $13 million. Like there's a comma that's messed up there. Right. It's not $13 million. It's $13,433.33. $13,433.33. Yes.
Sorry, I will fix that
Correct.
afterwards.
I'm not coming in. Yeah, it's not 13 million.
I will
Yeah,
fix that
I mean,
after
if you
this.
could, that'd be great. But yeah, it's not, but we would like to get that money back as well, just because I don't know exactly like what went wrong with the rec or why it wasn't sent out, but I know it wasn't anyone on my team's fault this year, like in CEC, and I would just hate for that to impact their like programming that they can do for the rest of this year. And because we brought the Brew and Bash rec down so much, like I feel like this is just a little extra. It's only a little. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I will fix that. So sorry. We can move on to Cultural Affairs Commission. Alicia, do you have anyone you need to promote?
Can you promote Anani Peralez, Sierra Shin, and Naya 8 and Love Gillespie? And then I'll go first for the first.
So sorry, could you repeat the second name?
Sierra Shin.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Okay, thank you. This is a proposal that we come to surplus every time because it is funded by surplus, not by any referendum. We have guidelines for the Arts Initiative Community Fund. Some of you may be familiar with it. But the purpose of the community fund is to help alleviate some of the fiscal responsibilities students face when putting on culturally oriented programs. The cultural graduation shows and other programs, admin weekends, transfer admin weekends, etc., are extremely like hard to plan. And I think that the beauty of the community fund is that it not only helps make these events possible by funding them, but it also compensates the student leaders who put in hours of labor to make this happen throughout the year, not just in the quarter. So the fund is an auxiliary financial resource and can be used supplementary to other monetary resources. We have the guidelines ready to to have on council for y'all to approve and review as well. So yeah, it's a total of 2,200 per allocation. The 200 would be a stipend to the leader of the project. And I think that's the beauty of the community fund, because it actually supports the community that are doing this by compensating them for their labor. So that's the community fund. We would need 30,000 to help fund enough student groups. But if it needs to be lowered, we definitely understand. We would just like for it to occur because last year UCLA used it to put into the ARC budget. So the community couldn't happen last year because they didn't let us know that this was happening. So that was unfortunate, but hopefully this year we can get that up and running and people can experience the community. Next slide. Can you promote Love Gillette and Nile?
Sorry, could you repeat the name again?
Love Gillette and
Oh, okay,
Nile
perfect.
State.
Oh, okay.
Nile is NIAOZ.
Okay.
Hello, I am Niles. I am one of the co-directors of the CAC concert series, and we are requesting $35,000 in funding. We want to use this funding to put on two very important events to us. The first one is a collaborative effort with the Caribbean Student Association. Which we're working with them to put on a carnival, a student-led carnival, which will be the first event of its kind. And we're hoping to bring a unifying event like carnival to a UC campus where many Caribbean students, like my co-director Love, feel underrepresented due to limiting numbers. And through CAC, we hope to foster a culture that has continued throughout its 60 years that we work to fight for. Although this carnival highlights traditions practiced in the Caribbean, the influence from African culture, Indian culture, and different cultures within the South and Central Americas make it an event that all undergraduate students can enjoy. Year after year, any display of diasporic cultures of UCLA's Black community is continuously met with love, appreciation, and joy. CSA and CAC want to do the same for cultures that are mirrored in our communities. Traditionally, Carnival is practiced as a celebration before Lent, but for us, we hope to put on this event as a way to celebrate our year of hard work as students before we depart for campus for the summer. The second event we're hoping to put on is our Love Letter to LA, which aims to showcase the vibrant Los Angeles community and its rich culture. And through this event, we're hoping to pay homage as a way to celebrate the city in which a lot of us live in that we're not from. And we just hope to highlight its community and the culture and many artists and vendors that reside within the community. We're expecting to have this either early June or mid-May.
Hi everyone, my name is Sierra Shin and I am one of the co-directors for the Jazz Reggae Festival.
And I'm Anali Perales, another co-director for the Jazz Reggae Festival.
So a little bit of history behind Jazz Reggae Festival. We are a subseries of the Cultural Affairs Commission, and we have some of the most prominent purveyors of campus entertainment along with CAC. We are the largest student-ran and college festival in the nation, and we have been having the Jazz Reggae Festival since 1986 with performances by Erykah Badu, The Roots, and Snoop Dogg with as many as 30,000 attendees. Jazz Reggae Fest and CAC have remained student-funded organizations dedicated to circulating culture, music, art, and sustainability into the UCLA and greater Los Angeles communities.
Additionally, Jazz Reggae Fest is on its 37th year, building more than 3 decades of community. We aspire to cultivate a space of creative expression, cultural exchange, and societal mending all within one festival, which is under our festival's theme this year, which is One Love. And the festival is an indispensable part of the community, serving as a space for underserved and underrepresented communities to unite, heal, and partake in generational joy.
And we are requesting $60,000 for a substantial allocation to fulfill our cost and budget deficit. This would allow us to allocate money towards all 9 of our teams within the Jazz Reggae Festival planning staff. This would help with our A&R team pay for performing artists, help us pay for the rapidly increasing facilities costs, assist stage management with their stage and sound cost, also assist our marketing team with merchandise and advertisement costs, and overall our budget within other teams not mentioned, such as sustainability, our vendors, chief of staff.
Okay, now we
Um,
can, oh,
Oh, I'm so sorry. May I continue just real quick?
that is up to,
Is there another proposal? Or it was 2 minutes per proposal, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
okay, now we can move on
there
to
another one?
facilities commissioner. There are no other
Oh.
proposals from CAC. Nalaya, do you have anyone you would like to promote?
No, we've got our one speaker in the audience today.
All right, perfect. I can focus, I can move on.
Okay, I'm gonna hand this one off to Gio, who is our OSAC chair.
Yeah, hello everyone. As you may or may not be aware, the conditions of our offices at Kirkhoff have significantly deteriorated post COVID-19. And so urgent attention is needed to restore and improve these spaces. There's issues like water damage, wall, paint, and ceiling damage, carpet stains, pests, and more. So today I'm seeking your approval for a proposal that will address these challenges. And so the proposal focuses on key areas such as repair, restoration, pest control, accessibility modifications, storage solutions, and new furniture installation. The goal is to not just improve the physical spaces, but to also create an environment at Kirkhoff that supports our student body. And so in consideration of the available funds, I've also reached out to SGS advisors to begin confirming the numbers when you guys actually vote on proposals. But upon first estimate, this is what seemed fitting. So we're waiting on more specific details after consulting with maintenance and looking out at all of our options for potential storage. And so yeah, implementing this proposal will have a profound impact on our students and addresses critical issues such as fire hazards. I know the disabled students have reached out to me multiple times that they can't use their office spaces. So this would address accessibility for disabled students and just the lack of adequate storage and space for student organizations. So I think that this proposal is something that addresses essential and long overdue upgrades. So yeah, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Gio. The second proposal coming from the Facilities Commission office is to support the establishment of a disability cultural center. We're requesting these funds. As you know, Lily was our 2019 to 2020 facilities commissioner, and since Lily graduated, we have faced consistent hurdles when it comes to finding an accessible space on campus to host a disability cultural center that meets student needs. There's a large deficit of resources provided for students, faculty, and staff with disabilities, most notably space that can be used for disability center programming, gatherings, supporting the community. As evidenced by numerous articles and student testimonials, the Center for Accessible Education does not currently have the capacity to serve students as needed, and this program aims to fill in the gaps by creating an inclusive space. Based on our meetings with ASCCLA, renovations for the LSDCC would not start until there is enough funding provided by the Embrace referendum, which may take a few years. Obviously, we heard from them today and looking forward to getting more details from them. Therefore, we're requesting this funding as a supplement to the referendum to ensure an earlier opening of the center so that students can have a space by next academic year. The maximum is up there on the screen for 100,000, but our minimum was 60,000 to match current funds available. Our estimations for renovation costs come from confidential meetings that we've held with other campus resource centers at UCLA and the UC Berkeley Disability Community Cultural Center. The LSDCC will serve as a community center for all students with disabilities, where students and allies can come together and celebrate disability. Once we have a space identified and renovations start, we're hoping to also identify donor money that can be used to fund the rest of the center's needs to fully open. It is important to understand that this program would not only be serving students with disabilities, but the campus as a whole. All members of the UCLA community can benefit from having a more accessible campus, centralized resources, meeting places for those in need, and an increase in cultural awareness and celebration of disability. as time goes on, it becomes more and more important for UCLA to join other California schools like UC Berkeley, Stanford, and CSU Sacramento in their efforts to increase accessibility. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, now we can move on to the Financial Supports Commissioner. Sarah, do you have anyone you would like to promote?
No, it's just me.
Okay, perfect.
And provide over, I think, 1,400 meals for students. And I've worked with the Basic Needs Center, so they are good with distributing food, and to talk to students who volunteer at both centers, and both have shared an increasing number of students who are going to 580 and the Basic Needs Center for more for food, as we've talked about in this meeting. It's rough out there. Plus, I think post-COVID, these centers have received more advertising, and therefore probably need more resources. Thank you.
Okay, now we can move on to Student Wellness Commission. Janice, would you like to promote anyone?
Megan, no, I'm good. It's just me.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I have a couple proposals. The first one is in partnership with CAPS and the students that help advise CAPS. It's $6,000 for a community suicide prevention safety training. This would fund 2-hour trainings for 500 students. So that's like 500 student leaders that are learning about how to help students and identify students in crisis. And then there's a little bit of a cost breakdown on the slide. I also have 2 more of my proposals are also in partnership with CAPS, because I met with them, and a huge, something that I ran on, and a huge complaint of the entire student body is we need more CAPS sessions, we need more mental health support. So we thought one way that we wanted to initially address that was I was like, how much does it cost to hire another therapist at CAPS? And Dr. Nicole Green said it costs $160,000. And it doesn't make sense to fund that with surplus, because that needs to be a reoccurring fund where they can continue to keep that person hired and at UCLA. So these 3 proposals are coming from what can we do instead? What impact can we make on our campus's mental health with limited funds and one-time funds. So that's the first one. And then I'm so sorry, but I'm just gonna skip around so I keep those together. If you could go down to Rise on the Road wellness vehicle. Thank you so much. Okay, so $30,000 for Rise, which is the Resilience in Your Student Experience Center on campus. They are the sister org to CAPS, where they're okay, CAPS is for students who are already suffering with mental illness. Rise is for what can we do to prevent that illness in the first place. So right now they have a golf cart that they use to, which is I think is really silly, but they use a golf cart to kind of transport and use to do mental health programming across campus, because our campus is. And another really significant purpose that golf cart also serves that was really impactful to me is that they're trying to make sure when students are in crisis, i.e. experiencing are a danger to themselves or others, experiencing a suicidal ideation, that instead of students getting the cops called on them, that CAPS trained trauma-informed professionals can pick them up instead and can address their needs on the spot. And they've been using this golf cart. So they only have one right now, and if they have an additional one, they could continue to bolster those services and offer that as an actual consistent resource, and maybe not even a golf course, but an actual closed vehicle, so that these students that are going through a crisis have more privacy. And then they also want to use this vehicle, market it as an on-the-go wellness resource where they're going to decorate it, they're going to have snacks, pop-ups for mental health screening, education resources. And then the last one, if you could go skip down to, I think it's just 2 slides after this one. On the slides, if you could skip one more, please. Oh, I think it's going out of order now. If you could scroll to find the non-UC ship live health line program. Perfect. Okay, and then this is like the biggest item that CAPS and SWC in partnership are asking for. So right now, UC ship students have access to live health online. It's additional telehealth therapy and psychiatry on top of like CAPS, and it can be used in any of the 50 states. Regardless of insurance status. So this funding can support up to 1,000 sessions, which each session averages like $112 for therapy and psychiatry for non-UC ship students who might have trouble accessing this resource. And this could serve around 50 students. This like live health online program is available 24 hours a day, even on weekends and on campus holidays. So students can have access to therapy services even when CAPS is closed. So, and this doesn't even require a referral. So that complaint that students have about there being a long wait to get into CAPS and seeing a provider, this would eliminate that barrier completely. Students can also participate in couples counseling, which like I'm sure all of us have experienced, like being in college, like experiencing like relationship difficulties is a huge part of things that we go through. That's also accessible through this. It's at no additional cost. So this would be a really, really great resource. Okay, and then could we scroll back up? I will do all of the other ones that are not related to CAPS. So yeah, low cost CPR, first aid, BLS certification courses. One of SWC's committees is CPR first aid, and they have served the Bruin community since like way back in the day. They've come around. Lots of students who are, for example, on the pre-med track, or just like in general want to work with children or like in healthcare, they need this certification and it's a high cost. So CPR First Aid is able to provide students with this training, including like a lot of members from UCLA community students, employees, even professors, with the life-saving support training and CPR training at little to no cost. So they're asking for funding to support their classes. Next slide. Another committee in SWC is Bruin Necessity. They do basic needs programming. This is a program that's near and dear to my heart because I actually created it 2 years ago, where students can get gift cards to spend in certain aisles of the UCLA store in Ackerman right below us. To spend on basic needs, personal hygiene, and household good products. And it's a really highly used resource, and we've already blown through all of like my in-office allocations that I've given to this program. So they're asking for $25,000 more for this. With this cost, they can support around 200 more students, and we have to turn away students every quarter with this resource. So we would love to support them. And then next slide, please. Another SWC committee that you guys might have heard of is Sexperts, and they are our primary sex education, intimacy, safe sex educators on campus because we don't have anything in UCLA for that. So students mobilize to do this. They do trainings in the frats, and they do trainings for student organizations. It's really, really great. But there's also an event called Sex Week that's been happening since I think also the 90s, but unfortunately the usual organization that puts this together and like brings together all of the different like reproductive justice orgs on campus and entities together, like they are not doing it. So Sexperts have been gracefully offered to organize this event, but we need funding for it. So $30,000 is going to a week of programming of condoms, lube, sex toys, just like bringing resources to campus students and like destigmatizing the conversation around sex on campus and making safe sex more accessible to all Bruins. And then next slide, we're skipping the rise of the road, perfect. Okay, and then another SWC committee is Planned Parenthood Advocacy Project. And this is a project that past commissioner last year and PB John last year also advocated for and received funding for, where we had 1 week of free STI testing at the Ash Center. They want to expand this to 2 weeks. We saw really high use and engagement from students. So this price would cover free walk-in gonorrhea, chlamydia screenings through urine tests on the second floor of Ackerman. Oh, I'm sorry, not Ackerman, Ash Center. That's crazy. It would be 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. walk-in hours Mondays through the 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Friday. So really exciting. Let's stomp out STDs on campus for free. Okay, and yeah, not an Ackerman, I'm sorry. Okay, and that's all for me, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we can move on to some USAC office collaborations. I think Janice or Nalaya.
Hi. So this proposal was submitted by Janice and I, given that the Economic Crisis Response Fund does not draw from large funding sources. The team has to rely on limited numbers of donated items meal swipes from students with meal plans. And these numbers fluctuate quarter to quarter, and the ECRT has historically run out of emergency meal swipes to support students in need. For instance, just 4 months ago, in November of 2023, Swipe Out Hunger ran out of student meal donations, closing their program temporarily. In response, the ECRT had to distribute a limited number of ASUCLA meal vouchers instead of meal swipes, leaving food insecure Bruins to depend on other limited sources of food and owned devices. This proposal was for requesting funding for 14 emergency meals per quarter for 200 students at a value of $16 per meal for lunch. That maximum funding would be $44,800. We are happy to collaborate with the Office of the President in order to work on another proposal for ECRT, given that we've got similar goals there. And we've just been in contact with Swipe Out Hunger and ECRT and are setting up a meeting soon to talk to them about receiving any funds here. I think this is a really important way to support our students.
Okay, lastly, this is the USAC non-referendum executive and director stipends. We did this last year as well, where we paid every single executive and worker and director $520. This would pay each of them $580 just because a lot of our offices don't have the financial capacity to pay our staff members. And then I don't think I have to really justify this any further.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. My bad, sorry. Yeah, okay, so. Also just last slide, it was like the total minimum requested was $2,416,000 and 326 and 72 cents. Okay, now moving back to our agenda, we have officer reports. Did we want to do question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if we could have a discussion or a vote about your veto for the general student star fund that was frozen from last year's surplus.
I think we can add it into the surplus discussion on the agenda.
Okay.
Because why not? So for the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I can shout.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there such motion that we can just say, look at every single one of our reports online? And then just go directly to ask? Can we do that? Can we just be like? I think everyone has written except
Just see what our reports for today. Is that okay with everybody?
I don't, yeah.
No objection? Okay. Then we don't need a motion for the reports. Okay, old business election code change. I think we just need to clarify the language of this.
Yeah, we just need to vote on the entirety of the elections code, not just the edit that we made last week. So I can just go ahead. I motion to approve the entirety of the elections code for this year's election.
Megan motion. Hands all in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 10 to 0 to 0 vote, that is approved. Thank you. Okay, resolution, just because of time, we're just gonna go ahead and motion and vote on it. Good with that? Okay, thank you. Okay, question?
Oh, no, I was gonna just.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
Motion to vote on the resolution in support of AB 1818, parentheses 2024, close bracket. To approve? Okay. Motion to approve the resolution in support of AB 1818, parentheses 2024, close bracket.
Jonathan, motion, Sarah seconds, all in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. So with 10 to 0 to 0 vote, that was approved. Thank you. All right, now it's official. I know someone said it in their proposal that we voted on it, and I was like, not yet. So, oh, we're doing that, sorry, okay, go ahead.
Motion to approve the resolution condemning the genocide of the ethnic Armenian population of Artsakh and calling for the UC, the immediate divestment from the Republic of Azerbaijan and the Republic of Turkey.
All right, Jonathan, motion, Sarah seconds, all in favor, please raise your hand. Well, please raise your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. All right, with the 10 to 0 to 0 vote, that is approved. Thank you. Okay, sorry. New business. Oh, sorry. A resolution in support of an earmark in appropriations for Bruin Cubbies. Eva.
Hi, everyone, give me like 10 seconds.
Oh, okay.
While we're waiting 10 seconds, last call for basketball tickets.
Sorry, just give me like 10 seconds. Sorry.
Thanks, Saturday.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to present this resolution. Since it's been on the agenda, I don't really want to go through and read it and everything. But essentially, what Congress does, they use things called congressionally directed spending, otherwise known as, in the language of the resolution, a community project funding. And UCLA just happens to be applying for this funding to go towards Bruin Cubbies. And, you know, as I'm sure you all recall, before we got our luxurious USAC offices, like I was taking my doctor's appointments like in random places in public, right? Or like phone calls in public, just on benches at UCLA. And that's what, you know, the vast majority of students have to do in order to take, you know, just take a private discussion on campus. So this is a resolution in support of the US Congress giving UCLA $500,000 in order to install these Bruin Cubbies on campus, just so people have private spaces to do those sorts of things, take meetings, phone calls, whatever it may be. And this is in partnership with the UCLA government and community relations team. So if no one has any questions about it, I motion to approve the resolution in support of an earmark in appropriations for Bruin Cubbies on campus.
You motion, so Alicia seconds, all in favor, please raise your hand. Please raise your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13 to 0 to 0 vote, that is approved. Thank you. Letter in support, Eva?
Yeah, so this letter is also in support of the Bruin Cubbies. It's really just for your permission to send this to the government with USAC's letterhead on it. It's going to be sent to Senator Butler and Senator Padilla. And this will be included with letters of support from like the rest of UCLA. And this is just essentially the student letter of support for Bruin Cubbies. So this is something that Congress was going to read.
basically. And I just signed it below the UCLA Undergraduate Students Association Council. And so this will just be part of the application that UCLA submits to the government. So if no one has any questions, I would like to motion to approve the fiscal year 25 EVP support letter for Bruin Cubbies.
I second.
All right, even motion, Jonathan seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. The 13-0 vote, that's approved. Present.
Yeah. TGIF has had an incredibly active quarter and unprecedented success with funding multiple projects focused on sustainability or incorporating sustainable measures this quarter. There have been multiple USAC and non-USAC entities funded by TGIF for the past year. For the first time in many years, TGIF is out of funds. And as one of the most active funding bodies, it is imperative that TGIF remains active by not releasing the carryover TGIF funding of $169,333.93, and the main program carryover TGIF funding of $111,317. $111,317.33. TGIF's future inability to fund multiple student organizations will be in jeopardy. Many organizations even now are waiting on funding allocations and decisions from the committee, and we are unable to act without this funding. So I'm encouraging council members to vote yes on this motion to approve the release of restricted TGIF carryover funding for a total of $280,651.26 from past years. This is all outlined on the budget that Jessica provided us with last week.
Oh, I second.
There, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 10-0 vote, that is approved.
Thank you all so much.
I don't know where Jenna's. When? Because,
Because it's exec session, should we do discussion first?
yeah.
It's just.
Okay. Just 0 more seconds, because I feel like Jenna should still be here either way, if we. For those in Zoom, we're just waiting for Jenna to come back into the room. For like a second.
I motion to cancel. She wants to cancel. Oh, she says, I'll be there.
Do we?
I motion to table the executive session. Wait, should we wait on this until Jenna's? No, I motion. Should we wait?
Yeah, she said I'm there.
She should have been.
You wanna do the discussion?
Yeah, should we just do the discussion? You can read this. About it if you want to wait. Yeah.
We don't have to.
I think she made some of that. Hello? I'm so sorry. It was getting really dark and dire, so I asked my roommate to drop off food. And I told him like right when the surplus presentation was happening. So I was like, can you give me 5 minutes? And then he was waiting here this whole time and thought I was still presenting. And he hasn't asked me to write. So I just felt so bad, so I had to run out. Can I move to amend the agenda, remove the executive session?
I second.
Table the executive session.
I second.
Janice motions, Jonathan seconds, all fair, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 12-0 vote, that is approved. Okay, thank you. So, you're fine. Okay, so now we'll be going into discussion on surplus proposals. This is really gonna just be a discussion on after hearing the proposal and going about a brief conversation before, we hit Friday where we're doing the final presentations and voting on the actual, other items, that are gonna be approved. However, since then, we've gotten various emails, various public comments, et cetera, and so this is time to kind of open the stage, for council members first. I wanna know how folks are feeling, and then also gonna give my 2 cents on what's occurred. So what people, you wanna go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I will be commenting on the proposals. CSE, we have restricted our surplus for our transportation needs because we have to buy vans, and when projects get into accidents, the insurance and it's a lot of money. So, but the consequence of this is that over the years, because of COVID and some of the programming isn't like done, during the COVID years, we have accumulated a sum of money in our surplus. And I want to use the surplus because there's no point in accumulating so much money that's not being touched. So some of the proposals today, I feel like I would like to help fund. And one of them is the safe parking by EVP. Considering partially funding the ETRT as well as IVP and IVP Housing Relief Fund. If so I will reach out to the respective people so that, because I know that the amount requested is a lot more than what we have. So hopefully that helps to alleviate some stuff, but we'll try to get the numbers solidified before the next meeting.
Thank you. Very much appreciated. Okay. Or do you folks want me to talk for, you want me to? Okay. I will say a few things because we got questions about the veto. And I'll just bring it up because as I explained in our last meeting, and I'm pretty sure I gave my explanation last meeting. So folks didn't see that explanation, here it is again. That specific proposal for last summer was for last summer programming. When it comes to proposals that are submitted and approved by council, or for not even that council, that's a whole separate council that approved those funds that were supposed to be used for that summer. It's not supposed to be used for different events, even if it's the same event for next year, it's for that summer. That summer came and went, and with that, it was vetoed. So the funds, if they were to be used for this summer, that would be something that last year's council would have had to vote it on in order to do it, to my understanding, at least. Am I correct or not? And just like, it had to be used last summer, like for that specific proposal.
Yeah, any funds for a proposal should be used during the time frame that is specified for that particular program. I believe the funds we're talking about were restricted by this council.
Okay, yeah.
Prior to the fiscal year closing, because, that was the only way to carry them into this term.
Yeah.
So technically it was last council's initiative that you all voted to restrict like very early on in your terms, like probably like the first or second week, so, it may be, you know, a little fuzzy to remember, that point that that conversation came up.
Yeah. Even going based off that, I don't think anybody should be restricting funds in their first 2 weeks of being council members, because I didn't know the full scope of what restricting funds meant, but it's also the fact that your program was supposed to happen last summer, and we're now towards the beginning of spring quarter. It's also that it was restricted under a certain office, the Gen Rep 3, for some of those funds. And the Gen Rep 3 right now is Jonathan. And if that council member doesn't want to, per se, do the programming, do the collaboration, because it should be coming from that office that actually does the proposal. For all these events, it should be coming from your office that does the work depending on your proposal. You should be at all the meetings. It's not just we're funding bodies. We're not. We're really not, as just council members. That's not our job. That's not our role. That's why it was vetoed. So that was my explanation there, but yeah, go ahead.
Wait, so then I would be able to still use those funds for those intended purposes this year, or no?
That would have been a whole different proposal,
Mm.
because what I'm saying is that proposal was specifically for that programming last summer. If it just said summer programming, like generally over the next 2 years, then that's a different story. But it was specifically like, okay, we're gonna bring kids to do this, this, and this under these specific projects. And that just didn't happen, and it wasn't used that summer. So that was the reasoning for that. Yep. I couldn't see it on the computer.
Would I be able to, invite like a student who, I personally still view as a transfer student representative, to speak about these proposals?
Can't use your time.
I can. Like, we really can't invite students to talk about this, like, at all. Why?
Because it's a council meeting.
Could we make an exception? Could we vote to make it happen?
It's the chair's discretion as to whether they want to use their time.
No.
We can't vote as a council to make it happen, because I feel like we can. No? Could we vote to extend public comment right now? Because we have in the past. Could we vote to reopen it?
But they've already given public comment. Everyone in this room's given public comment already, the ones.
There's still people on like the Zoom, and there's still people in the room. I'm pretty sure I can use Robert's rules to change the order of the meeting and reopen public comment.
I can look into that. I don't know if, I can't advise you off the top of my head because I'm not familiar, but I believe, yeah, you would need to, there would need to be a motion and a second and a vote to do so. So we'll look into that. Let you know.
Wait, how long will it be?
I'm literally gonna look it up on my phone right now.
Okay, until that is decided, we can continue talking about it. I would like to have, members speak. Thank you.
You went to what? I'm sorry.
We can continue this discussion, but I would like to know what Jessica's answer. was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sue John?
I guess I just wanted to like add to just contribute to the conversation. I mean, first definitely say that I appreciate the fact that you have your own responsibility as president that I'm not aware of. So definitely not trying to misinterpret or misapply those. But I do think, I think the fact that we voted to restrict the funds and that was our decision, does show the initial commitment we made. And I totally understand if there is, you know, for example, that summer 2023 issue where that specificity is a problem, but I do think then we should do everything in our power to help that programming go through this summer, because we did kind of show as a council that we voted and saw the value in allocating the funds for this purpose. And then I guess as far as public comment, just offering my opinion that I guess just because it is a discussion, I feel we should do what would facilitate like the most productive conversation. And so I think it would be in our best interest to allow to figure out the way for to just be able to facilitate the communication, and of course in whatever ways.
And then that's an outside meeting in my, like, that's what I think. And then as for also just summer as a whole, like we were talking about with SGA, it's very hard to give funds during summer because it's the simple fact that not many people are here. So, and we talked about that after the fact, and that's because we pretty much haven't done it, like giving funds over the summer for various programs. Not saying that student groups cannot apply, it's just, as you know, our staff is very limited in, especially our student government accounting. And not many programs simply happen. Yeah. Jonathan?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it would have been nice for all of us to have known, had that discussion a year ago, and I wish, just because like when I restricted them and I motioned to restrict them, I was under the impression of, like I'm not leading this programming, but I want that, those funds to be easily available to those who requested it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would have been good, but I do also voice my support just because in previous instances, I've been in particular a very strong supporter for students that get their voice, because at the end of the day, our paychecks every 2 weeks are funded by student fees. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't feel right if there's even a singular student that wants to say something to us and they can't.
No, I get it. It's
Yeah.
just process.
No, absolutely. There's guidelines for a reason, but I think we shouldn't be instigating these as a method of silencing. But is Jessica still figuring out what's going on? Okay, in the meantime, I will talk about the last prop, just because I'm transitioning real quick, so then we come back to this discussion when we have an answer. But I think the last prop does, fund a variety of organizations, and yes, I'm actively working on figuring out those numbers to the T with these organizations. Just because at the end of the day, though, I think it's really important. I see the value. I see these organizations that put in the heart and the soul in, for example, Soles, the Society of Latinx Engineers, their work is vital for people of color and Latina students to understand what it means to be in the STEM field. I would have pursued a STEM degree had I been able to, had I would know how to navigate. So for me, it's very personal. The Latinx Bienvenida, for example, like HSI had to navigate $40K in trying to fit and scavenge for that, because again, the administration is not providing the funding for that. The town hall for the Latina students, I think it ultimately, there's just a variety of programming here that is essential. So I'm really, really advocating for that, and I'm going to try to refine those numbers more specifically. I just provided those numbers given that my staff had that limited time. But at the end of the day, I made a promise when I entered this office to advocate for my community however I possibly can, advocate for my community, others. And this is the way I see myself being able to do that. So yes, if you all have any questions, thoughts, concerns, etc., please let me know.
I have a question. Have you met with one of the advisors yet? Like, did your meeting for this week?
I have not yet. I've talked to Fernando, but he has not gotten back to me. I don't know if he's okay or not.
I do it unintentionally sometimes. Fernando is out of office today and tomorrow, but as was sent in the email, you just sign up on his calendar whenever you're free.
Okay, I will meet with him in the near future, but I did preliminarily talk to Orlando at least about it. And I did talk to Fernando about it as well when I first was conceptualizing the idea, and he said, yeah, I think that's feasible. So I did discuss it with him, and Orlando did also
lightly, like me and him had a brief discussion on it. He did appreciate that there was a theme of prosperity within it. So I did have those discussions that we even briefly.
Cause my only concern is like most of the ASCCLA and USAC funds follow like the viewpoint neutrality, which basically means like, okay, either all sole organizations can apply for it, but if it's marketed as like, okay, this is like a fund for Latina organizations, I don't know how like the wording or the guidelines would phrase it, like to make, like, it
Yeah.
might be like, I don't, but then the actual like guidelines, everybody can apply. Like that's the only thing.
It isn't a matter of applying, it's I reached out to any organization that serves the Latino community and I asked them, what do you need from me? I made myself publicly available since the beginning of my term, asking what needs are you? What are you facing that is easily available to you that I can advocate for you on your behalf? So it's definitely, but I definitely saw that concern and I asked Fernando and Orlando about it, and they preliminarily said it was fine, but I think there has to be a more thorough review.
Yeah, I can just tell you now, it would have to be open to everyone. There is no, even if, even though it's a marginalized group, it can be considered discrimination according to UCLA policy, so it would have to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to establish like a funding body. Like that was not what I'm trying to get at all. So
It's more like he's supporting a bunch of projects already that's.
Yeah.
Rather
Yeah.
than setting things flat.
yeah, I'm calling it the fund because it's meant to fund projects that are already in progress, if not,
Oh,
yeah, I'm not,
oh.
yeah, these are projects that are already currently happening or going to happen in the near future. Like, everything is out here. It's not a matter of here, I'm having $100,000 available for like, no, everything has. Like, that's why the number is so specific. I have the budget and I provided that in the preliminary proposal. So I'm not, I think that might have been a bit confusing, but no, everything is meant to be funded to something already.
Okay. Sorry, I think I misunderstood.
No worries. No worries at all. No, I'm not making a fund or endowment or anything.
Go for it.
Okay, so regarding public comment, Robert's rules doesn't really cover much about public comment. The motion would be out of order. However, you all have reopened public comment in a prior meeting due to confusion about the start time. So it'd be to the council's discretion if you want to do so for tonight's meeting. But again, you would have to follow your same bylaw, the bylaws regarding public comment. So it would be open to new speakers, but any student that's already spoken for their 2-minute allotted time would not be able to give a second comment.
So can we motion then to reopen it?
Yes, if you would like the motion, you can motion, someone would need a second, and then it would go to a vote, in terms of whether you want to reopen or not. And I believe it's just simple majority, so.
There's by reading citizens.
Public comment.
There's people in watching Zoom, so if you want to reopen it, go for it. Who am I to clear? I'm gonna continue if I don't hear anything. So, oh, okay, sorry.
I move to reopen, the public comment session.
Give a second. Alicia motions, Sujana seconds, all fair, please raise your hand. Nine, please raise your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. Okay, with a 9-0 to 4 vote, that's approved. Okay, we'll go ahead and reopen public comment. I believe there's 15 minutes left of public comment, so we'll take hands for anybody that didn't get a chance to speak in public comment in the beginning of our meeting. You have basically 2 minutes to speak per person that is new. And yeah, if you're here to speak for public comment, please go ahead and raise your hand.
I believe she only used 1 minute of her time, so I don't think she went the full time, 2 minutes.
But that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Like, you can show one allocation. Like, if
But
you
she
don't
didn't
show-
use her entire time, which is what Jessica said, 2 minutes, the full 2 minutes. If she still has time, I believe she should still be able to go.
Let me pull up your bylaws, but I believe it's only 1 comment per student.
So how do y'all make a decision on going to the full clear? And not one of y'all have violated. Call what? Anyone's going to actual public comment? Public comment is closed at 10:23 PM. Thank you. Okay, moving back to our discussion on surplus. Moving to the next topic, it was overall a general discussion on the surplus proposals. As a whole, getting to the other topic of the email that we received, there were some late applications from a multitude of people. Deadline was set for a reason. It was agreed by people that were at the meeting, that were present. That's that. That's what I have to add to that. Everybody had the deadline at 3 PM. There's a proposal I thought about an hour later, because I was like, God damn it, I didn't get a chance to submit it too. I didn't make an exception for myself, I'm not making an exception for anybody else. Someone's not in the front. Sorry. Okay, so that was my thing on that, but if anybody has comments, I'm happy to hear. Yeah. Starts.
Okay, I'm just gonna, share, like, recap what Tyra, mentioned in her letter. So the first one was the GRC surplus, which I think we touched a little bit on. The 45K that was meant for African Education Project, SHAPE, ASP. My opinion is that even though like this was technically supposed to happen like last year, and we didn't vote to restrict it, I feel like if they are able to produce like a plan or evidence that this can still be carried out, like, and the 45K is still gonna be carried out based on what they had intended it to, then I personally would be in favor of supporting them getting back their 45K allocation. So that is my opinion on that. I think similarly for the TSR allocation, TSR was allocated 35K. Yeah, to do programming, and some of them also includes ASU's for the ASU's Black Transfer student body. I think this one's a little bit tougher because currently there's no one in the TSR position. So for this, I'm a little bit more hesitant, but I'm mainly because I'm kind of concerned about who's going to be carrying out the program, not because of the specific program itself. And then for the last thing, about, EVP's proposal that was submitted at, 15 minutes late. I also wanna just give some grace and also let that be considered just because I know it's a really tight turnaround and 15 minutes, I feel is not something that they should be like completely penalized on. So this is my opinion, but I understand, like, yeah, what other people might think.
I want to say that I do hear you. It's just, if I didn't set a deadline, then it could have, it's like how school assignments are. That's how I compare it to, like, there had to be a specific date and time. And when we talked about it first, it was first proposed as 12 at noon. And honestly, it makes it very hard because council meeting is a requirement. Like, this is what you are stipended to be here. And even after that meeting, it was some people like, oh, wait, it's due here? It's yes, like it is, because we talked about it here at the meeting. Jonathan sent an email, very detailed, with the meeting, with the links, with everything provided, so that everyone had the same information as to everybody. And because it was the fact that also that the actual proposals were supposed to be submitted by the commissioner, that was also probably aided in that delay of that proposal, because another person was trying to submit. So that's also just miscommunication between the commissioner and their staff. And so that's why it's kind of like, yeah. And yeah, I feel like it'd be a different conversation if it was submitted and we go from there. But my thing is, if you cared about it enough, I feel like it would have been, so yeah, that's going to the next one. So going to the next person.
Can I make one? I feel like, yeah, that is like super valid. For funding bodies like BOD and stuff, sometimes you're like, okay, let's cut it off like here. Sometimes we accept it, but penalize that. So another possibility is like we put it there, but everyone knows this one was late. So how much should we give this late application? But yeah, there's just a.
I get you, but I know there was like 5 other ones that weren't accepted either that were late.
Okay,
So it's also like,
okay, yeah.
damn, like,
Yeah,
you know, so. I get it. Yes?
I'm just curious, which of EVP's proposals was the 15-minute late one? Did it not make it to it didn't make it to the presentation. Oh, that was my question.
Let's see it. And then we'll go to Ava. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that the reason we like extended it to 3 p.m. was because of Megan's, like, her consent to that, because she's the one who puts on the agenda. That's like one of her major roles as the IVP. So I think I want to gauge input from her. I also don't really agree with like your rhetoric, Naomi, about like the assignment, like and how an assignment is due at a certain time, because professors and TAs always give like accessible, not always, sorry, sometimes are able to give accessible extensions for students who need it. And I think with the timeline of surplus being announced on last Tuesday, it's just really hard for student groups to even know about it, and that's quick turnaround. And I know that's not dependent on the USAC. I know that depends a lot on AACCLA. So I think that that's something to consider as well. But all in all, it's not really fair to have that deadline, even though we have such a tight schedule to move these allocations by. So I think that it really is important to give grace and to give like accessible extensions for groups, especially those who are underrepresented, underadmitted, like the Black population in UCLA.
Thank you. And I didn't mean it as an overall one size fits all for assignments wise. I'm a TA on campus, as many folks know. I was just giving an example of something that I could easily compare it to, and I thought of assignments in UCLA, because most of my classes are end all, like, that's the due date. And so, yeah. And Alicia asked directly for Megan's input. Megan, did you want to say something? And then we go to Eva?
Yeah, I do think it is kind of upsetting that like a proposal would be like dismissed so quickly. I do understand like the deadline and things like that. For the presentation, I don't think I finished it until like probably up until like this meeting was started. Just because there were so many like niche edits to like summaries and things like that that people wanted. I think that if like we were to make an exception, it would probably be have to like open to other proposals as well, and that would kind of increase the cost that we already have, like the total cost. But I do understand like the difficulties with like this being like such a strict deadline with such a quick turnaround. It is like really upsetting.
And then we'll go to Eva.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because I think there was some confusion as well, that the proposal that we're discussing that was submitted late was for the UCSA Racial Justice Now campaign for academic reparations. And that's really important just because this is a fund that goes to system-wide efforts in supporting Black student retention success. And it's something the EVP and UCSA and folks in those organizations have been advocating for all year. Um, I think that like because there was like a proposal for the BOD and other like funding bodies to be given a lot of surplus money, I would be really interested in having that proposal modified to include specific programs for like what ASU was applying for, in addition to like the restricted funds that we're not able to continue for the next year, just because I really think that like I think that those funds like BOD and et cetera, I literally can't think of them. Those grant programs that USAC does operate, while like some of them are over applied to, I think others are under applied to, and that does result in the surplus in the first place. I would really like to see that 500,000 pot of funding proposed by the Office of the President to include a large chunk of that to ASU. I think that kind of solves all of the issues here in just like just so that as USAC we can explicitly serve Black students in a way that gives ASU the jurisdiction to decide how that money gets spent, which they did via their proposals, in which they did via the restricted funds to TSR and GR3 last year. I just think that that way we can be, constitutionally sound with things that are applied to on time. And I think also just satisfying the claims that we heard from many student leaders today. And I think they're all right in that in the upset that the surplus funding was on such a tight turnaround and restricted to USAC offices. And I understand those concerns as well. I mean, that's why we fought for it to be extended literally to 3 p.m. from noon. But I really think that like this is a step towards potentially in the future, like, or if we're not able to open it up to future organizations, still giving them the discretion and the jurisdiction to say that like, hey, like we are your students, and for us to be able to say that their voices matter. And so I just really think that like in order to satisfy all parties, I really think that like contingency and the board and the BOD funding, I really think that if we can just have a chunk of that go towards ASU and these restricted funds, or just to cover it, I really think that that could like resolve the qualms from both council, as well as sole registered organizations that have spoken to us and have emailed us today. Sorry, that was long-winded.
No worries. So the point of me in thinking about the proposal in the first place to put money back into our funding bodies is so that there's already a process for those funds and being distributed and being applied to by student organizations, and then they have their own scoring sheets done by people that we've appointed, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Now, with that, we know that historically USAC funding tends to go to some, like, we don't get a lot of new applications from various different boards. So with that, I think it would be in our due diligence to put on more events, and that could be something posted to the Round Bay Council. Email saying, hey, we're gonna post an event on how to apply for this fund. We're gonna walk you through in doing that. My office, I'm happy to take that on if needed. I think that'd be great for other funding bodies, especially those for surplus that are advocating for funds to go into their funding body. I think that would be doing your due part and educating folks that don't apply simply to these funds to get them applied to these funds so that they can have the money. Jonathan? And then I'll go to Lucia. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to bump firstly what Eva said about, I think there are ways we can figure out around this to allocate those funds. I just think it's essential. I just think it needs, like, Black students need to be funded. Like, what, Black students are what, 5% of the student population? Like, if 6%, like, for me, like, advocating for like 23% of the Latino population, I had to scramble. My 4 people staff was scrambling to get these funds. So I could only imagine the struggle that the Black community was going through, especially with the recent exit and departure of the TSR, unfortunately. I think, but I also agree with you, Naomi. I think making this access more equitable, because again, in the Latina caucus discussions that came up, it was consistent that students do not know how to navigate applying for these fundings and actually having those understanding those complexities. Because to my knowledge, I've served in both an undiverse clubs board and a diverse clubs board, and the undiverse club that made hundreds of thousands of dollars in income every year knew how to apply for surplus funding, but yet the organization I currently serve in as treasurer, I was the one who had to figure that out and, actually fill out those requisition forms, because I was the first person in like years to know how to fill out a requisition form. So I think at the least, I think we can kind of, like, a couple of our offices can kind of commit to providing that to, students of diverse backgrounds and having that sort of like open house or training or, walkthrough guide on funding. Because while, yes, I know those resources are somewhat provided, I think we can do better. I think if us as students can help other students, I think that's the best support we can possibly offer.
And then we'll go to Megan. Sorry.
I want to bump what Eva said. I think it's really important, but I think everything that she said is really important, but I do want to emphasize how, like, any funding that is given and given back to ASU, is in control by ASU. Like, these students, the African Student Union, Black students should be in charge of these funds, directly, of course, in response, I mean, like, they obviously have communication, collaboration with USAC, but like, for sure, these funds should be ASU's. I think that it's also really, important to recognize that, like, these funding bodies that a lot of you, want to put surplus money into are, like, under guidelines and under, like, lots of just like regulations and barriers, which makes surplus so much more accessible to students, and more students know about surplus and a lot of the funds available through USAC procedures, because it's easier to get the funding, it's faster to get the funding. And when it's such a tight turnaround, because USAC surplus was available before, like in the end of fall or beginning of winter, not anymore. So that's a really big issue. I think that it would be just a longer process to put, like, funds, like, from surplus into funding bodies that we have right now. And have to change the guidelines, have to extend the amount to which orgs can apply to. It'll probably saturate a lot of the staff's like own workload that they're gonna have to do if more. So I think that's just the process of having surplus for especially like mother orgs and admin weekends so that are diverse admin weekends, transfer admin weekends, graduation, culture shows, etc., would just like make it all the easiest. And I just want to give like Tyra her flowers for like facilitating that for so many orgs last year, and making so many cultural programming happen last year. That was amazing. That is something that I've never seen in my time at UCLA, and I've never heard of in the history of UCLA. So I think that seeing that happen and coming to fruition really changed so many lives, and especially for the organizers and the leaders of those organizations. So I just want to emphasize that I want to diminish the barriers to funding, because I think that, to put it clearly, a lot of our funds have procedures, guidelines, as they should, but that's where year round where people have the time. But right now, when surplus is available, it makes it really easy for us to connect with these orgs who have been reaching out to us, who have been wanting to hear more, have been wanting to have this as public knowledge that is more accessible, rather than just like USAC Live and stuff, to want to apply. And I just think that it's a shame that we don't see how much power we have. Like, each one of you council members has the power to really make this student ran, not like having to go through one-on-ones with ASUCLA. At the end of the day, we're on student ran. These are our student fees, and we can vote in however we want to make sure that funding goes where we want it to go, to whom we want it to go, when we want it to go, as quickly as possible, because it's needed. It's so needed, and it's going to make so many great impacts on their communities, on this campus, for generations to come, if they know that USAC has their support. We serve students, we're here for students, at students, and I just want to emphasize, we can vote however we want to. And in response to Naomi's veto, according to the bylaws, a veto should only be passed on matters relating to budgetary changes and allocations, and we can override it if 2/3 of the council allow it to. So I just want to emphasize that even if Naomi chooses to veto anything, we can still vote against it as a majority of the council. Thank you. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you. Gonna go to Megan, and then, oh, actually, right before Megan, sorry. Oh, after Megan. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Megan.
Okay, I'd like to thank Alicia for her comment, because I think that was very helpful to put in perspective of the funding that we have. I do support putting money towards contingency and ASU slate bonds, so they can increase the limits towards what we can allocate to student organizations, and just overall giving more funds to student organizations. If that did happen, I would pull the IVP partnership fund. I know it's been a prolonged program that IVP has always done, but I would pull it just because the entire intention of it was to alleviate stress off of FICOM. I would like to put an allocation towards BOD and contingency. If there was any way that we could commit funds to ASU or other student organizations that desperately need this money, by I don't know how we would go around the viewpoint neutral clause. I guess that was just my concern.
Jessica.
Yeah, so quick, to follow up to Megan, great point. One of the things I was gonna address, just the benefit of putting the funds into the funding bodies is that viewpoint neutrality, because at the end of the day, these are still student fees. So they are subject to regional policy, PCAL 80, in terms of how they get distributed, if you're using it by a funding body. And then I also just wanted to clarify for you all, just a little bit more background on surplus and what exactly it is. So it essentially is the carryover funds from the prior fiscal year that were left unspent. So for sure, I can tell you that every year, USAC pretty much fully allocates every dollar it has available. But then student organizations that have those allocations are not always able to utilize and spend all of the funds. So anything they have left unspent is what ends up becoming surplus for each year. And it has been, delayed last year and then this year, due to the audit still, being ongoing this late in the game. Obviously, it's always our goal to conclude the audit much earlier. But USA, GSA, all of the entities of ASUCLA do undergo an annual, very rigorous audit where we have to provide backup, responses to questions that auditors may have. So that was the reason for the delay last year and this year. We hope obviously that next year we will not have those delays and we'll bring them forward much earlier. But I do also just want to clarify for you all that surplus is not a funding body itself. So just to, that's part of the reason why the council offices are meant to bring forward proposals, is because the funding needs to stay within SGA, or if you're partnering with a campus entity, it can go via check to a campus department. But essentially it needs to stay within one of those two financial systems, because again, they are student fee funds, and at the end of the day, we are subject to all the regional and campus policies on student fees. So I just want to clarify that for everyone.
Okay, so, what about we kind of get, I don't know, like a suggestion is we can get the respective, like people who are involved in the funds that were restricted to kind of detail their plans or their proposals to spend that money, and then when that could be expected, and then next week you can come back and do a vote, and if it's passed, then the money will go back to them. Or,
I just had a question. I wanted to try and ask if we could try to motion to consider the EVP approval for academic preparation for Black Bruin, if that's possible.
okay.
I'm trying to motion for the surplus proposal, by EVP, the academic preparations for Black Bruin, to be considered as like a surplus proposal.
Second.
Yeah, if you want to proceed forward, I mean, because we're not voting on it tonight, so if you're just bringing it back into the discussion, then if you all want to motion to amend that, but I would also just remind everybody that there were a lot of late submissions to proposals, so it's just setting precedent that everything gets accepted, and then, you're kind of just spiraling in terms of like adding more, but yeah, there's a motion and second.
Can we do the motion of these last 5 proposals that were submitted to consider those to the greater sphere of things when considering for surplus? Can we do that just to make it equitable?
Okay, I move to consider the proposals that were received, the five proposals that were received, after the submission deadline.
I second.
Yeah.
I think that, like, I look back and, at like 3:30, like there might have been something that I wanted to propose. And if I had known that if I had just like submitted a late, like submission, that it could still be considered. I know for me, it kind of is kind of bumming me out and it seems, like unfair in this sense, but I think that if this is what council wants and we want to see like however the proposals proposed, then that should be what council decides.
So there was only, the one late submission within the form because we didn't close the form. We meant to close it at 3, it got closed a little bit late because of, administratively getting into the system. But for sure, I know there's at least 3 offices that reached out to us asking if they could submit something, and we had already closed it and said no, because of that deadline was 3 p.m. So I think that's to you all, whoever's office had one of those proposals, to include it in this motion and just let folks know if that's what you want to do, or if you just want to go based on what was in the form. Because the form did close like essentially like a minute or so after that one was submitted. So we don't have any other on record.
Yes, I think we could probably even move it to next week to see just the exact number of proposals, but I definitely want to take care of this. Well, we could do it, we could add a special presentation to summarize those, and if not, I do just definitely want to do this. This is for Black students. It needs to happen. Like, they're one of the most underserved communities on campus. So I do definitely want a motion, and if whoever wants to support Black students can second and vote in favor for it. So I definitely just do want to put the votes next.
I wouldn't phrase it like that. I'm sorry. Like, you're saying you have to vote on this to be supportive of the Black community. Be so for real. No, like, let's be so for real, actually. Because if I really want to talk about all the numbers that are below 6% at this school for populations, I could. And there's so many instances during this discussion where I've been able to fill in another student group that has talked to me about the needs of their community and the needs that they need. And being on all of these task forces in my time as president has really illuminated to me of all the struggles and everything that a specific community needs. And I know it's not just my group. For a fact that is struggling on this campus. And so if we allocate a certain amount to one group instead of just doing the procedure of having folks apply, I can figure out the logistics behind applying and what's wrong with applying. If we need to do another student appointment, I can do that. If we need to market it better, I can market. If there's other things I need to do, I can figure that out. If we allocate to some group and I hear from another group, like, why didn't you give me money? That's another kind of work I can't do. Like, that's the problem I'm struggling with, because how do I say to some group that, oh, I didn't give you funds because this group reached out to me? Like, how do I do that? How do I justify that when my role is to serve all students? How do I do that? No, actually, tell me, how do I respond to that?
Eva has her hand.
Sorry. A lot of groups need our help. Really, it's very true. And that's why I did the proposal to send it into DOD and contingency, because I know that works somewhat. Like, I'm not 100%, but I'm like, I know people get funds because I've applied for those funds. I've done it. This is my first year doing it, but I've learned. And I know I can teach others. I know I can do that. And I know I can do it with y'all's help too. I know we can do that. I just don't see any other way to be equitable, to be fair to the groups that everybody needs it. Like, I read David Bruin articles from last year, how they did the process over the years. I did research to figure out how best could I do this for our council. They did it one year where they said, okay, we're gonna give $100K and student organizations to apply for this. They got over 100 applications and they were overwhelmed because they didn't do their due process in reviewing them. Because who's gonna review them on our council? We couldn't even meet with BOD, for God's sake. Who's gonna review 100 applications? Who's gonna volunteer, actually? on top of all the other things y'all want to do when these proposals. They did that. They tried that 1 year. I said, no, I guess that's off the list. I was like, we can't do that. They tried it 1 year of just, what was it? They literally just had people apply. Like we said, it was messy. It was messy. They did the other year, it was just, there's so many different examples of how each council has done it. Last year, I thought it was a mess. We had people making proposals a week after we said it was due, and people thought it was unfair. I won't lie, I made a proposal the week after, and I knew people were mad at me. I did it too. I wanted to do the fairest process I could, and that's why we set a deadline. Like, I didn't know any other way to do it. I said, okay, let's do noon. Everyone I looked around, they're like, no. I said, okay, let's do 3. We settled on 3. We said, okay, let's do it. And any time during that time, you could have emailed me before 3 p.m. and we could have done an emergency vote via email. Okay, we need to send it to 4 o'clock. That didn't happen. No, there was no communication. What was I supposed to do? We said something in council that we were going to do. We said we're going to do 3 p.m. I did not get any communication before the deadline that you need an extension. That's how academic works. That's how I know academics works. I'm flabbergasted because if there's communication, I can fix things. If there's no, I can't do much. I really can't. Eva, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you definitely for sharing some insight, Naomi, into the process. I could not imagine the pressures of, being president, having to respond to, um, having to, be as fair as you can. But since Tyra did email us like before, I think, the 4 p.m. deadline, I just want to go back to Alicia's motion, just to consider the surplus proposal. Um, which I know like then we further divulged into this other discussion. Um, but I think, and maybe my audio did cut out, but I really would just like to motion to consider the ASU academic reparations proposal to surplus that was submitted to EVP.
I second.
Eva motions, Alicia seconds, all in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. As it's 2-4 vote, that doesn't pass.
Wait, no, I wanted to ask about clarification of abstentions, because shouldn't abstentions only be used in certain circumstances?
No, you can't abstain at this point. It's 2-4.
13.
Because
there's 12 of them, so you would need it. You need 7.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Means adjourned at 11 p.m. Have a good night.